You're listening to Ernestly Speaking, the only weekly podcast that covers friends, foes, and anything that goes. And now, for your badass host, Ernest Owens. And we're back with another episode of Ernestly Speaking with your host, Ernest Owens, myself. Well, this has been quite the September. I mean, it's been a full week, but yet it feels like we've been here for like half the month already. Like I feel like it's been roughly 8 days? Really 7 days. But if you're the core 500, you're listening early on a Monday. And so you're entering the 8th day of September. But come on, like this past week, it feels like half the month of September has already passed us because we've come in hot and heavy, super hot and heavy. As many of you are listening to this, I am getting up and getting ready to head out to teach my second week of this semester at CCP. It's already been a robust semester already. I'm teaching the first two classes of the semester, fall semester. And then I have two other classes that's going to follow in the next couple of weeks. So at CCP, they do like 15A, which is 15 weeks, really 14, but we'll say 15, like 15 weeks. And they have what is called 10A, which are 10 weeks. And so the 10A portion of the semester begins the first week of October. And then 15A just started last week. So I got a little bit of breathing room, but I'm teaching 4 courses altogether in this semester. I'm starting the first 5 weeks, and then it will continue within 2 other courses that will then parse out for the remaining 10 weeks of the semester. So 4 in all. And it's exciting. I'm teaching an in-person public speaking course, my virtual online public speaking course, my tech in the workplace class, which is the only class, I'm the only professor that teach that course at CCP. So it's always, fully engaged. And then I'm teaching a writing and reporting for media course, which is a journalism course that I'm also going to begin teaching. So it's a lot going on. And while I'm doing that, which is its own experience, I'm also diving into the Emerging Media Diversity Convention, which is also taking place at CCP later this month. People are beginning to enroll. It's beginning to really, the registrations have been getting really, really increased to the point where, I'm having a good problem here, but it's like, all right, y'all, like, it's going to sell out. We're trying to extend as much space as possible, but we're going to have a nice crowd. We're going to have a really great turnout. Like it's doing its thing. And I think a lot of it comes with the big announcements that we made this past week. We announced our keynote speaker, which I am proud to finally announce. The keynote speaker, we have an awards program, but we have a lot of other big announcements. But the keynote speaker for our Emerging Media Diversity Convention is none other than Emmy Award-winning CBS News anchor Errol Barnett, who is the anchor for CBS News. He does CBS Morning Show. He does a lot. He's a national correspondent for CBS News. He's based in New York, big national, big deal, but he is coming to Philadelphia as our keynote speaker. And he will also be in conversation with the legendary CBS News Philadelphia anchor, Yuki Washington, my mentor, who will be a part of the conversation with him. We're also going to be having our first ever, PABJ is having its first ever Emerging Media Awards, which you all know I love a good awards show. But we're having our first ever Emerging Media Awards, which is going to be taking place the night before the convention at CBS News Philadelphia Studios. And we're honoring Errol Barnett with the PABJ President's Award, which I'm PABJ President, Philadelphia Association of Black Journalists. I am going to be giving him the President's Award for his outstanding work. I'll also be giving Dr. Alicia Marshall, who is the interim president for CCP, the President's Award of Excellence, which is another honor. But we'll also be having some other emerging honorees. And these individuals are all journalists under 40 that's doing incredible work, and media professionals under 40 that we're honoring with our Emerging Journalist of the Year Award and our Emerging Media Professional Year Award. So the first honoree is Marcella Beato, who is the digital reporter at CBS News Philadelphia. She's receiving the Emerging Journalist of the Year Award for PABJ, to be clear. Morgan Parrish, who is a reporter at Fox 29 Philadelphia. She's going to be receiving the Emerging Journalist of the Year Award as well. And then our Emerging Media Professionals of the Year is going to be Khalil Bullock, who's my actual frat brother. He is in another chapter. He's not a row chapter, which he should be in a row chapter, but he is the chapter president of ZOL, which is Zeta Omicron Lambda, and he's a communications professional at Temple University, and he's going to be receiving an honor. And then last but not least, none other than our PABJ Emerging Media Professional of the Year honoree will be Josh Moore, or as you all know him best, Josh Eats Philly, my lit brother. He's going to be also honored as well. So it's going to be a great time. It's going to be on Friday night at 6 p.m. on September 28th. September 26th, and that's going to be the kickoff. And it's going to be a great celebration. We're going to be honoring some incredible people. And then the next day, we're going to have a full slate of events. Shout out to our sponsors, which includes Community College of Philadelphia, CBS Philadelphia, the Philly Download, Tito's Handmade Vodka, and then our media partners, which includes WRD Radio, Philadelphia Community Access Media, Visit Philadelphia, and the Philadelphia Citizen. So we have a nice group of local and national supporters who are coming through to help make this convention a great event. If you are interested in attending, okay, register ASAP. You can go to the link in my bio on my Instagram and Twitter. My bio link, you can click there, or you can go to thepabj.org. Again, thepabj.org. You can go there, and that will allow you access. Now, if you're over 40, tickets are $250, but that includes everything. That's for all my over 40 media professionals. Now, if you're under 40, the ticket price is only $100. And if you are a college senior, that is 21 and up, because this is a 21 and up event, it's only $50. Okay, only $50. So this is a steal. Now, I want to say this on this podcast because so many of you all listen. This event is 21 and up. And also be clear, it is the Emerging Media Diversity Convention. Because I have to put this disclaimer, you do not have to be black or brown or yellow. You can be any racial identity to attend this, okay? We do not discriminate. However, what I will say is that this is the Emerging Media Diversity Convention, which means that if you do show up, regardless of your racial identity or background, you are sharing space with people from all walks of life. So come correct, be respectful, be culturally competent, and all should be good. So just want to put that disclaimer. So, just want to say that because people, but, come correct. Okay. The catering for this event is from Details by Miss Dawn. She's my personal favorite caterer in the city. She's going to be doing the breakfast, the lunch. She's also doing the reception the night before. We're working with women-owned businesses, Black-owned businesses, diversity all throughout, and the vendors we're working with and everything that's creating this space. So back to these tickets and what makes them special. If you are a college senior at 21 years old, that's dropping $50. If you are under 40 in the industry, you only spend $100. If you're over 40 and you want to be a part of this event, it's $250. But that's it. That's all you're paying for this entire event. What I mean by that is that once you get here, your ticket price is all inclusive. That includes the breakfast, the lunch, the open bars, the liquor, the drinks, the foods, the receptions, the workshops, everything's all inclusive. So this is about equity, access, okay? The prices are here for equity, right? Equity. So everybody is getting the same experience, but everybody's paying a different price based on a tier system. And that's thanks to our sponsors that allow a lot of this to be reimbursed in a way that adjusts the price that allow there to be that. Because it's important, that there's subsidized cost. Because let me tell you something. I don't know any convention at this magnitude that includes workshops, career fairs, headshots, jobs, all these opportunities, right? With all these different receptions and food and all of this. I don't know any event like this that is at these rates. Okay. If you wanted to go to a certain little whatever convention over in Cleveland they had earlier this year, if you want to go to some of these other conferences, first of all, you drop in money to get a hotel room. You're dropping money for air travel. You're dropping money that is more than needs for registration. And you're not even guaranteed all of this free food, open bars, and all these experiences. A lot of these places will give you a meal or two, but then you have to pay for a cash bar. Or you are on your own for food. Like I went to some conferences where they'll give me a slate of things and they'll say, you got to pay for this, pay for that. And then when it's lunch and this, it says you're on your own. And I will say to myself, how does these big corporations and these groups with all this money can't allow for people to go in a space and they're already paying money to travel. They're already paying money for all these other things. And you can't even provide a meal throughout. I went to these conventions. I can throw shade now. I'm not even throwing shade. These are facts. But I would show up to some of these events and I would see people hoping that somebody can buy them a lunch or give them $20 or comp them. And I would see college kids like that, young, professionals like that, or they would, have to carry snacks and eat them throughout. I've seen the inequities at these conventions as a young professional in the field. It was only 10 years ago, now I came from the space of how I grew up. If you didn't have the money to really do the whole experience, you just didn't go, or you would have to budget and you have to save and you have to hustle. That's just how I grew up. But, everybody's different. Some people really go with a wing and a prayer to some of these types of conferences where they're 5 people deep in one hotel room. Some people sleep on the floor, alternating the beds. I mean, that was never my experience. Because for starters, I didn't go to any types of conventions when I were in college. Fun fact. Like I hear stories of people going to NABJ conventions and stuff when they're in college. I never did that personally because the cost of that, the travel, all that, I was like, no, I never did that when I was in school. Now, when I graduated from Penn, my first year, I didn't go to NABJ convention. I graduated in 2014. I didn't go to my first NABJ convention until 2016, 2 years later, when I had enough resources, capital, access, and things. Fun fact, I didn't join NABJ fresh out of college. I actually joined the Society of Professional Journalists, which I'm still an active member of. I've been more connected with them and aligned with them longer than NABJ, actually. A lot of people don't know that. But yeah, and I currently serve on their the Society of Professional Journalists, the SPJ Foundation's board. I'm actually a development committee chair. Fun fact. But I went to their convention first in Nashville, Tennessee. And this was in 2014. How I got there was that their convention had fellowships. They provided a full ride tuition for rising college students that wanted to participate. And so what you were doing in this fellowship at the convention is that they would pay for your registration, your hotel, all that good stuff. And you would actually work with their newsroom to produce stories and cover the convention and produce like a digital publication, like do stories and interviews. And they would also mentor and you would meet these like famous journalists. And so some of the journalists I got to meet was a woman named Kara Swisher, who some of y'all heard of Kara Swisher. She's like the big tech journalist. But many years ago, I actually got, went to this event, this convention. She spoke to our fellowship group, and she was like a mentor to us during that convention. It was really dope. And Kara Swish is like everywhere now. Like she's a big damn deal. But I got to meet her many years ago, and so it was pretty dope. But that was an experience for me that I would have never gotten had it not been for the money that they pumped into it. Now, I know other conventions, they do similar things, but SBJ, they were doing it in a real equitable way. So when I tell you that creating an emerging media diversity convention, I designed it based off of the needs and the concerns of young professionals that are those who are under 40, but a lot of them even much younger that did not have the resources and opportunities to be able to have a full-fledged experience. I didn't like the hierarchy of those conventions where, you was VIP if you was this or you was that. You didn't have this, you didn't have that. Or some people got this and some people got that. And I just feel like for young Black and brown professionals that's trying to make it into this business, so much is already expected and demanded of them to even show up to get these jobs. How do you not create a space where people cannot eat? Like, we don't talk about food insecurity enough in this country. We don't talk about enough in Philadelphia. Everybody is talking about all this other bullshit, potholes, and that's important too. But like, we just don't even talk about the industry enough. And so a lot of times you're expecting other people to fix these voids and these gaps. But that's what makes me me. Because we just keep telling people, save your money. If you want it that bad, you got to do what you got to do. And that's how I grew up. I grew up in that hustle culture in the industry where people it was crazy. Like my first year in 2016, when I went to the NBJ convention, I couldn't afford to stay in that hotel. I actually stayed, shout out to my good friend Farah. Farah lived in Silver Spring. The convention was in DC. She lived in Silver Springs, Maryland. I stayed in her house. She let me stay and crash on her couch like every day for that convention. That convention was a week long, which, by the way, these conventions and conferences are too fucking long. Who got a whole week to stay anywhere like that? Now, listen, you talking to me who stayed at the General Convention for Alpha Phi Fraternity Incorporated. Now, we have Alpha Business. And let me just say this. We do our conventions every other year. Versus NABJ and these journalism groups, they do conventions every single year, and they have in these crazy ass cities that people have to actually travel to. Nuts. But this particular year, they did it in DC, and what I did was first of all, the hustle was real. Adulting, because I've asked my folks, my mom, my parents, I could have did all that, but I just was like, I'm grown. Like, when you get an age where at least for me in my adulting, I didn't want to be begging my parents for money for everything. I didn't want to be begging my mom and be like, oh, can you get this? I'm grown. And also, too, I just had to be mindful about how I wanted to invest in that, right? So I took I did not take the Amtrak because, again, budgeting. I took, what was that bus? The boat bus? Greyhound, not Greyhound. It was the Megabus. Remember Megabus, y'all? I took the Megabus all the way to DC. Okay? That's how efficient I was. I took the Megabus. I then stayed at my good Judy's, Farrah's house. Stayed at Farrah's place. She had a nice apartment in Silver Spring. And how I got to the convention was I Ubered. Okay? And so I Ubered from Silver Spring to this DC Marriott hotel every single night. And the way it would go down is that I would get up early, super early in the morning, Uber down there, and I would stay at that convention until it was completely dark. Until it was completely closed, because I was working the rooms. I was networking, okay? I was working like the rent was due. I was networking. I was making my connections. And so I would get up I would arrive to the convention at 8 in the morning, and I would leave at like 2 a.m. or some shit. And I would stay every night. And I remember one time, I used to hear about what the girls used to do back in the day. There were some girls, now even some boys too, I will call them hobosexuals, because the guys were doing it too, where some of these people, both genders, let me be very transparent. What they would do is they didn't really have a hotel, but what they would do is they would finesse somebody each night They would hook up with a new girl or a new guy or something, get with one of these like old zaddy ass producers and some shit. And what they would do is they would hook up with them that night, spend the night, crash in their bed, spend the night with them, and they would have a bed to lay in somebody's hotel. I was in a relationship, still in a relationship. I was with my man, okay, Mr. Johnson, okay? So there was none of that. I couldn't be a homosexual. I wasn't trying to do that. I remember people would tell me their little stories, and I'd be like, damn, we got to crash somebody. Listen, I was not trying to be that girl. And some of them had boyfriends and girlfriends and shit. And they was doing what they had to do. Was never that girl. And I can tell you to this day, let me say this. Let me let these girls know, I never played the whole position. I'm not slut shaming anybody. I'm just saying I never played the pole position. I've never slept with anybody in the media industry. Even when I was single, even when I was trying to get in the room, I never slept with anybody in the media industry to get ahead for anything. Okay? You will never hear any stories of, oh yeah, back in the day, I ain't never did it. And I'm not judging people who did. I just want the record to say that because people see my career, my success, and how I've moved up. I've never had to drop nothing to get something. This was based off of my talent. This was based off of my strategy, my finesse, my optics. I did it in a way where I have to compromise myself in that way. Some of your faves, not judging them, look, they had to do a little different. That wasn't my situation. So I'm saying all this to say that experience at that convention, doing that, shout out to my girl Farrah for looking out. Those late nights, going back, doing that. That year, I got a ticket. Somebody gave me a ticket to go to the NABJ Salute to Excellence Awards. I was in the back of the back room. And I was there. I got a ticket the last minute. Somebody hooked me up. Gayle King was emceeing the event. And this young man got this award. They gave this Emerging Journalist of the Year award to this person. And I sat in the back. I was eating my food. No one knew who I was in the room. Really, some Philly folks knew who I was, but I was starting. And I saw this man, and he was giving his speech, and, everybody was clapping and this, and I looked at myself, and I said, why can't I get that award? I want that one day. I was in D.C. in 2016, I said that. I was in a back room eating a cold chicken dish, and just was in there saying, man, I was like, I want that. I'm going to get that one day. Fast forward the next year to 2027. It is New Orleans. I'm with my parents. I am with my man, who was still boyfriend at the time. And I am being honored with Emerging Journalist of the Year because I decided that I want to get my ass out there and do some real hard journalism. And I covered neighborhood racism. And it took me from being in a situation where I could afford a hotel to having a whole hotel in New Orleans, traveling with my husband, with my family. At the time, he was my boyfriend, but And I'm sitting at the front row giving an acceptance speech, and we VIP. Life happens fast. Now I'm banned from that organization. But let's take it another step further. Now here I am, nearly 10 years later, throwing a convention of my own and giving my own Emerging Journalist of the Year awards. Life happens fast. And so I say all this to say that going through experiences vicariously and personally can shape why you do the things you do. There's a lot of people who want to understand, why did I do it this way? Why me? Why this convention? Why did I design it like this way? Because I am somebody who moves with intention. And I think if anybody follows my career or follow what I do, there is an intent behind it. There's a reason behind it. I look at Beyonce, who I admire. When you look at her art, you look at what she do, there's a reason why she do it the way she do it. It may not make sense to some people. It may go over some people's head, but there's a method to it. And so the things that I create, the things I design, the things I produce, there is an intention behind it. I think about these things meticulously. I work actively on them and everything that I put in it. So one thing I can't stand a motherfucker to ever say about me is don't say that I'm lazy. Don't call me dumb. Don't say I'm a liar. And don't say that I don't walk in purpose. Just don't. Because I really think about what I do. And I really am intentional about creating those experiences. And I do operate from the space of equity and compassion. And every little detail matters to me about that. And if I can't do it like that, I'll wait. I wanted to do this convention 5 years ago, actually. And then the pandemic happened. But even after the pandemic went through, I wanted to do it for different groups. I had different venues and ideas and things, but it just wasn't hitting because I was like, either people didn't want to fully invest the way they should. They didn't want to provide the kind of space I wanted, the programming, the type of people I wanted to be present. It wasn't hitting. I said, I can't, I'm not doing it if I can't do it like this. How I am designing this, how this is executing, this is a dream come true. This is something that I really care about. This is something I've wanted to do for a very long time. And so it is not clout chasing for me. It isn't oh, you just want to do this. This is something I've wanted to do for a long time and that I pull resources together to pull it off so that it can be of quality and substance. It's not about, oh, national attention. It's not about, oh, get celebrities. It's not about all of those bullshit things. It's about how do you create a meaningful opportunity for people that look like me, that's from my generation, that is from my group, that is going to inspire them to have a future that I currently have. I don't believe that the journey is you can only have one Ernest Stones. Am I incomparable? Absolutely. But I think that there is more space to create those opportunities. And I don't need to wait till I'm 50 something years old or hell, even 40 something to make that impact. You could be 33 like me. You can do that now. And I want other people that are my age to stop acting like you got to wait to have all of these things before you can make the impact. Now, granted, I've been fortunate and blessed with a lot of resources to make this happen, but too many people in my orbit, I hear people often act like they got to have this and this and this to do this. If you have talent, if you have value, which many of you all already do, it does not take anything from you to pour it into other people because that's how you build, actually. I'm building an army because eventually I'm going to do other dope things. And some of these younger people that's coming into the business are going to create ideas and things that's going to keep people like me even more relevant down the road. Because I did that for some people. There were mentors that poured into me that now I'm creating opportunities to honor them and give them their roses. Because when I was looking up to them, when I was younger in college, people weren't giving them their roses. I'm not going to name any names, but this is what I mean by intentionality. This is how this works. There were people that I looked up to that mentored me 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And I saw them never get the type of accolades and recognition that they should have gotten. And so when I got in a position to be a leader, I said, I'm going to make sure they know exactly how much they matter to me as much as they've mattered to other people. You gotta give back. Reciprocity is real. I believe in that kind of good karma. I've been blessed so much because I've also given so much. I've also went through so much. So much I don't talk about as much. But my friends, trust me, they know. I'm talking about people that know. People look at me now like, oh, you so fabulous. Let me tell you, there was a time when people was talking shit. Now, they always been talking shit. They still talking shit. But there was a time where I wasn't empowered in the way that I am now to navigate that. And so I tell people, Listen, what J-Lo say? Don't be fooled by the rocks that I got. Listen, I used to have a little, now I have a lot, but I know where I came from. And so that's what I'm saying. It guides the way that I move. It guides the way that I think, how I strategize, and how I show up for people. And a lot of people might be in similar circumstances in their own life, but think about, how do you channel that? How do you turn that into a situation where you can help make sure that the next Ernest Owens and the next person that's going to be you or do what you do or aspire to you don't have to go through the same exact experience? This convention is a love letter to the future, but it's also a pipeline so that the next person that wants to aspire to dream big that's out there has a space, a place in their own backyard, in their own city, where they don't have to feel like they have to take a mega bus down to DC and crash on their friend's couch. That they can have these opportunities in their own backyard. And so, if there's anything in my presidency as PBJ that I've done, that I feel like I've done some great things, a lot of cool things actually. But this is like my Obamacare. This is like this is my big one. This is my personal big one. This is something that is like a trademark thing for me, that is like, this is what I brought to the industry and the media ecosystem. This is what I did, that I pulled together, that I created, I collaborated with. This is something that is bigger than just me. And I think that's why it means a lot to me. Like, I've had some career achievements where, I did this cool thing. I did this, but this is something in my heart. And that's why I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm talking so much about this, but it's just like, I was on Patty Jackson's show, on Miss Patty Jackson on WDAS. I was on her show this week promoting this convention, and she brought me on. And I'm just thinking about like how full circle, because Patty has been following my career forever. And to be able to come on that show, and she's going to be a part of this convention. She's doing the big, huge closing session. It's a fireside chat that I'm doing with her and Josh and Kelly Frank at CBS and Ashanti Martin from WRD and Monique Curry Mims and everybody. We're doing this cool ending fireside chat discussion, and she's going to be moderating it. But just to think about, like, when she saw me come into this business in this city, people was like I was a joke. Like, did not take me seriously, prayed on my downfall, did not think I was going to have the longevity I have. And she saw it in me, like many others, in small, let me not say many, small core. And to see us be able to be peers in this business and to talk about this and to do this way is super dope. So yeah, I'm just beyond excited. If you know an aspiring journalist, media professional in this area who has aspirations to be a part of this experience, spread the word. Cash app them $50 or $100 or whatever, but spread this word. If you know somebody, a content creator or somebody who needs to be in a space like this, in a place like this, spread this word, because a lot of hearts and minds are going to change. Somebody's going to get their big break here. Somebody's going to have a breakthrough here. Somebody's going to go here and meet a mentor or meet somebody that's going to inspire them. Somebody's going to get their first big job that can take them from a free paper to the Rolling Stone or New York Times. You never know. The possibilities are endless. And I'm not just talking out my ass, because I am a testament of that. Somebody did that for me. And I'm not waiting to give back, because that can happen for somebody. And I've seen it happen for people. And this is what it's about. So show up. So I look forward to engaging people and seeing you all there. So in other news, I also had a great time. I was at the Global Philadelphia 10th anniversary of their World Heritage City Celebration. So Global Philadelphia has it every year. It was a fun gala. They honor David Cohen, which we just talked about David Cohen like last week. He everywhere. He got a big award from them. Andrea Mitchell, who was a longtime MSNBC journalist, reporter. She's a Penn alum. She's a WQHS radio. I met her there. She was in conversation with David Cohen at the event. And yeah, it was great. It was a great event. And yeah, I got to meet her in person, who I've heard about her. I've seen her everywhere, but we never had that face-to-face experience. And I personally just, thanked her for her journalism and what she does. She's a big political journalist. I mean, Andrew Mitchell's a big deal. So it was great to just be able to see her and celebrate her and all that. Great event. The food was good. Everybody and mother was there. Mayor spoke, so everybody put their ones in the air. Fun fact, I don't put my ones up anymore, y'all. I make the excuse I'm a journalist, but two, I'm just kind of like, y'all, like, it kind of feels, okay, no shade. It kind of feels a little cultish, like at a certain point. It's like, and the mayor does this thing every single time. She's like, now, everybody, I just want y'all to know that, we got to put our ones up because the cameras are on. The cameras are on and everybody's in the room. And when I tell you all, put your ones in the air, as the kids say, put them up. One Philly, a united city. I mean, I'm just like, oh. And how many, I mean, listen, it just feels like a little coat, like one world order, I don't know. It just gives me coat vibes. I mean, initially it was a great, picker-upper for the city, raise the morale of Philly. But like at this point, I don't know what one Philly United city, because shit, I don't know. It's multiple. Listen. It was a great catchy slogan at one point, but it's kind of aged a little bad recently, in my opinion. Also, I went to the Influencer Awards. Philly Mag does this every year. I went. It was at the Bellevue Hotel. Beautiful gowns. Okay, let me back this up. The event itself, like Philly Mag itself, I mean, I work with them, of course. I'm a political writer at large, and I do work with them. But the event itself was fun, right? The food was good. It was at Bellevue Hotel. I mean, the renovations there was great. It was a nice space. Good stuff. No complaints there. But I just can't stand influencers. I mean, there's some I like. There was a couple that I saw that I enjoy following them and things like that. But I don't know. Like, I just sense that they've done this event like 4 years in a row now. And this year, it just felt like we're beginning to see, we're at the plateau of influencer culture. Like, I feel like we're beginning to see the demise of it. I feel like it's hit a peak and now it's only going to go down. Like, I don't see another new rise for influencers. Okay, there'll be content creators, granted, and influencers and content creators are not necessarily the same thing. Let me just clarify that. Like, there are some people that are actively creating actual like content that is thoughtful, meaningful, that is not rooted in direct, business to business services. So let me be very clear between influencers and content creators, because some people will say a content creator could be an influencer. There's a difference. Content creators or content producers, either way, right? I look at them as people that are making some actual content that is bigger than trying to sell shit and promote shit. Like, they're comedians, they're making skits, they're like actually like doing things that has like Country Wayne, right? For those who know Country Wayne, like, I'm black folks, we know Country Wayne. Like, listen, my mom has like the biggest crush on him. But like Country Wayne like makes actual content. Like, he makes skits and things. There is a guy who, he's a young content producer. He might be my all-time favorite content creator. I just love his stuff. He's a young guy. And I just see his stuff. I'm like, you are smart. Like, you are dope. Like, you are just doing it. And you know your shit. And I'm impressed. Like, I'm like, you are dope. Like, if I meet him in person, he followed me on Instagram, and I was impressed with him. I was just like, he's black, he's making good stuff. He's very influential. He's won a Time Award. He's been honored by Time. His name is Khalil Green. And he did this really great series that won a Peabody Award called The Hidden History of Racism in New York City. He's like a historian to a certain degree. He does so much dope work. And I'm just in awe. I fanboy from him because he's a content creator, right? But he's also a historian. Like he does meaningful like work in the content creating creative space. And yeah, like people like that, I don't consider him an influencer. Um, he is 25 years old. He's a Gen Z historian. That's how he describes himself as a Gen Z historian. And yeah, he's on TikTok and Instagram. He was named the 2025 Time 100 on the Time 100 Creators list. He served as a correspondent for Nickelodeon's Nick News, and he also produced a series for National Geographic. Like he's dope, dope, and yeah, like a guy like him, um, yeah, he's doing it. Yeah, he's just yeah, I'm just really impressed with what his work is. Um, he was Yale's first black student body president. Yeah. Like someone like that, right? He's gonna grow. Like he's got Emmy nominations. That's a content creator. Like that's what I mean, right? But then you have influencers, right? And these are the people that are like pay to play, right? They're the ones who people pay them, they promote things, they do those things. Like look, my good friend Josh, my little brother Josh is an influencer. Like most of his content he produces is promoting food. He's a food influencer. He gets a bag, he promotes, he do his thing, right? He's one of the few that I actually like. He's one of the few influencers I like because I like his content is real. He puts thought into it. But a lot of these other people, respectfully, as an industry, right? They're they're grifting. They're it's they're selling people, they're selling businesses, they're ripping businesses off, they're making fake promises to them, their followers are bought, they have a bunch of bots, they're shaking these restaurants down. If the restaurant doesn't give them what they want, they write a bad review, they get nasty, they get rude, they weaponize their followers against restaurants and people that don't give them things. They're bums. A lot of them are bums. Not all of them, but a good number of them are bums. Like bum ass behavior. And what I mean by that is you got you some fake ass followers. You're hungry. You're hungry. Okay, you're basic, and you spend your time harassing restaurants for free food and shit. You get the food. You don't fucking tip. You don't tip these restaurants and these places, and you sit up and you exploit them. You know, it's one thing to be a food journalist and you go to a restaurant, you try something, whatever, you give coverage. You're doing something that's going to have some actual tangible impact. But a lot of these people go to these places, don't show up the right way, don't properly report or whatever, and you just really want to eat your way through Philadelphia and not really contribute to the larger pot, and you're not transparent about your operations and what you do, right? So it's a lot of that business stuff is going down. I was talking to a really prominent publicist in Philadelphia, and they were telling me that their clients that are restaurant owners and hotels, a lot of them do not actually want influencers. They don't want their involvement. They don't want to hire them. They don't want them a part of their marketing plan or strategy. They're going back to the basics. I mean, my husband has a public relations firm of his own, and even his clients who are not restaurants or whatnot, but they don't even want to work with influencers like that. They don't really want to deal with them like that because they don't want to feel like they have to give them things and do all this other shit. They want to steer clear. So we're seeing, I think, we're now at the point of the fall of the influencer culture. And to be clear, like my good friend, my good bestie, my little brother Josh, he's expanding the services and what he do in his own work. He's very smart like that, very strategic. And maybe he had a really good best friend, person moderating his podcast episode that was like, bruh, it's time for you to consider new options and how you want to show up. Because there's a lot of people exploiting people in this business, and it's just no joke. So feeling some type of way about, influencer culture, just like it's getting played out. Like everybody's capping, everybody's doing it. It's oversaturated. It's too much scamming. People manipulating the algorithm. It's just like I don't know. At least in the local scene, it seems like it's not moving up. Like there's no new girls coming through. And if you are trying to be new to the scene, we're over it. How many of y'all gonna keep doing these videos? It's so many different food influencers. It's like hilarious. Like how many of y'all gonna keep showing up, going, giving these mid-ass reviews, don't know how to, use a vocabulary. Everything out your mouth is, this is awesome. This is great. And then the little come with me to da 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 da. Like there's even mock videos of this shit. Like, come with me. This is your sign to go to. Ba 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 ba. Incredible food. The vibes were immaculate. Blah 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 blah. Like it's like, how many times are y'all gonna keep doing videos like that? This is your sign to check out this hidden gem. And it's not even a hidden gem. We fucking saw the article. We know it. It's so much of the same as talking points. So it's corny. So, yeah, I don't know. I think, I can imagine it's going to be like one more influencer awards, maybe next year if they decide to do it next year. And then after 2026, I don't know if it is going to still be a thing. I think we're really beginning to see it just decline. That kind of influencing. Now, content creators like the Cosmonauts and people like that, there might be a space for those people. I think that is where the pivot should be. Some of these influencers got personalities and they have enough pull where they might want to transition to actually being a content creator. But a lot of these people who are just creating this shit, this pay to play model shit on the food tip and product shit, nobody cares about your reviews. Y'all don't even got the range. So I'll leave it there. Other news, Piers Morgan Uncensored is coming to British TV. Yes, this got announced this week. I told you I had a big media week. But Piers Morgan Uncensored is going to be airing on British TV. So if you are in Great Britain, if you're one of my listeners, my many listeners in Britain, brace yourselves, because the hit YouTube show Piers Morgan Uncensored is coming to TV. Starting next week, okay? Starting next Friday night, this upcoming Friday, September 12th, Channel 5 TV will broadcast the week's best Piers Morgan Uncensored moments each Friday night with rousing debates, high-impact interviews, and a hard dose of truth. It's going to be, again, on Fridays at 11 p.m. starting this upcoming Friday night. Only on Channel 5. Now, this is for all you folks in the UK and the British. Now, for the rest of the world, okay, you Americans, right? You Philadelphians, you New Yorkers, you Baltimore folk, all of you are, right? It's still going to be on YouTube. So, for those who are going to watch it, all the episodes of Piers Morgan, the full episodes, are going to air on YouTube. However, Piers Morgan's show runs throughout the week on YouTube. There's multiple. If you subscribe to Piers Morgan Uncensored, multiple episodes air throughout the week. What this show is going to do starting at 11 p.m., they're going to take the best clips from the week and they're going to make an episode that's going to run on Channel 5. So all my folks in the UK and Great Britain, you all will get to watch the best of the week and a compilation episode that's going to run on Channel 5. And Channel 5 is a major channel on the British television network for all you Americans and other folks. So you all get a chance to do it. So I am still on with Piers Morgan Uncensored. I will be making appearances whenever I'm available and with bookings and things. And so you might catch me on your TV screens in addition to YouTube. So stay tuned for that. I'm looking forward to that. I mean, look, we doing it international, look, we on British TV, we on American TV, we doing it big. And so here's the big announcement. Well, one of the big announcements, because there's another big announcement coming very soon. One that you all have been wanting to hear about for years. It's finally coming, but do not guess about it online. But until then, wait patiently. Okay, so the news that I can share, the big news that just came out last week, which I'm finally excited to announce, is that I will be having my own radio show on WRD Radio. My own show. This is my baby. I have a brand new radio show that's premiering next Sunday, this upcoming Sunday, September 14th. The show is called On the Record with Ernest Owens. You all heard the news. You all went up on there and went crazy about it. You all been seeing it all over social this past week. So the great news is that this new talk radio show is debuting next Sunday. So for some of you all, you're going to get a double dose of me. You're going to get me on Sundays. And if you're in the core 500 and you're a big fan base beyond that, you're going to get me on Mondays. So On the Record with Ernest Owens is an hour-long Sunday morning public affairs show. It's for only an hour. It's every Sunday at 10 a.m. And it's going to analytically dive deep into local political news of the week. So this is going to be Philadelphia political news, okay? And we're going to be making bold predictions toward the week ahead while talking about what's going on, right? It's going to be about the top political local stories. We're going to have exclusive interviews with movers and shakers, and we're going to be engaging listeners live. The other bonus is, because I remember so many of you all have asked, reruns of each episode will be immediately available online for people like yourselves to listen whenever, wherever. So if you're in Baltimore, New York, Chicago, Houston, Atlanta, Great Britain, all of you all, these episodes will be available immediately after the live recording. So I will be sharing it in my IG story. I will be putting it as a link in the bio. So if you ever want to catch up on an episode and listen to that episode, those episodes will be available for you to listen to. So we're going to do the show live at 10 a.m. But if you're going to church, if you're sleeping in like myself, getting ready for brunch, won't be able to listen to it, you can get that rerun later that day, right after the show airs at 11 a.m. So I'll put up the episode. I'll make sure that you all get a chance to listen to it and check it out. But the big premiere is going to be on Sunday, September 14th at 10 a.m. Now, if you go to WRD, right, there's a WRD app. There's also the WRD website. You can listen to it live from the app or on the actual website. So if you go to WRD's website, you can be able to listen to it. I want to make sure you know the website. It is wordradio.com, wrdradio.com. And if you click on the website, you can listen to what is ever on air live on your own. So you could be able to pull it up and listen to the episode live on air. So you don't have to worry about, missing out on something, whatever. It will be available to it. And if you go to the website, wrdradio.com, you will be able to you'll actually be able to see that I show up in the slide. So there is an opportunity for you to be able to see the promo, but the promo is now up and running. It's beautiful, by the way. I'm really excited about the layout. I'm really excited about the design. Just the fact that people can have that chance to have that experience. And just to be able to see my face in that way, like to just have a show, in that cool way, like to just see the name and just, because, when I did City Council Live, and we're going to talk about that. Like, I didn't get into it on this. I did not get into it because y'all know there's some tea. Like, y'all know I got some tea. And I'm going to name names. I got to name names. I got to keep it real. This is what makes Ernestly speaking what it is. You know what I'm saying? Because this is my show. This Ernestly speaking is my show. It's uncensored. Like, I am going to say what the fuck I want on my show. Now, let me back up real quick. Real quick. Let me get into the parameters. On the Record with Ernest Owens is a WRD production. So I am on their radio station. I am getting paid, okay, because we don't do anything for free, But that show is on 96.1 FM, 900 AM, Progressive Black Talk Media, okay? That's WRD. That's a 1-hour show. There's FCC regulations, okay? So I cannot curse and do profanity and all that, okay? It's a different type of structure. It's a public affairs show. So it's like Meet the Press. I'm coming in professional. Now I'm going to be personal. I'm going to have fun. I'm going to be myself. But the show and the way in which we get into the topics and things, it's done with a level of professionalism. And I'm going to do more interviews. Like, honestly speaking, I don't do that many interviews. I don't do that many features, right? But this is a show where I'm going to interview people. I'm going to engage on some topics. We're going to engage with callers. You can call in on the show, live and, ask questions. But it's a 1 hour program. It's got all of those types of constraints and limitations, but also opportunities to really do some real breaking news. So I look at this opportunity for me to break news on the show, to be able to get into some great interviews and some topical topics. So it is a very formal professional show, but with personality and my, boldness. Now, let's talk in earnestly speaking fashion. Earnestly speaking, I'm going to tell y'all about what went down with this situation. Okay? Because I'm going to keep it real. I'm not putting all this on Facebook and on Instagram because, I like to give you all an earnestly speaking exclusive, but also keep it 100 with you all. So I hosted Philadelphia City Council Live for the past 2 years, and it was good until it was good. I'm just going to keep it real with you all. How do I want to start this? Because I was like, ooh, it's getting quiet. This about to get, mm. All right. So let me keep it real. I'm going to keep it 1,000. I kept it 100 on social, but I'm going to keep it 1,000. When I first started as the host of Philadelphia City Council Live, the show is from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's 3 hours every Thursday during council sessions. When I first started this show, this was before Sherelle Parker got elected mayor, before Kenyatta Johnson was council president. I just want to lay that foundation there. So Daryl Clark, former council member Daryl Clark was the council president at the time. And when he was council president, because this is important details, WRD has a contract with the city of Philadelphia and city council specifically, as they are the only radio station that has a contract to live broadcast the city council hearings and the city council sessions. So they're the only ones. Like we're like they like the C-SPAN. So like nobody else, no other radio station, WHRY, WDS, none of them have this contract. They've had this contract for years. And basically, they live broadcast. They're the only ones that get the live broadcast city council sessions so that the public can hear it, and have that access to it as part of it. And of course, there's a TV station, there's a TV channel, public access media, that also shows city council hearings so the public can actually be able to see this information. That's like a part of like governmental laws and things like that with public access, that the public, if they can't be at city council, they should be able to watch it and have access to it. So through radio and through television. So that is how it works, right? Okay. So them doing that show, they get a budget, and as a budget, they get to help support the producer, support the station, and also support the on-air talent that have to sit and do the hosting of the show. That's how it works. And so anybody who hosts that show, pretty much it's a permanent fixture. You know that you got a show every Thursday. You know that your show isn't codependent on budgets and ads and all these other things because it's a public access show. And it's also, in city council. So I took on this because at the time, I think, in my opinion, I'm just saying my opinion, I think WRD was afraid to give me an actual full show. I think that, I guess my reputation precedes me. Some of it is bullshit, to be honest, but it is what it is. I think they were afraid because let's be real. I'm just being honest. I keep it 100. I think they were afraid for me to have a show. Um, you know, I am still in this industry, and there's no shade to WRD because clearly the tides have turned, the game has changed, and we moving forward. But I mean, we got to be real because people talk and things have been said in the past, and I want to be very transparent about it, right? I think that there's a lot of people in this industry that even though I'm 33 and I've achieved the things I've achieved, I have done things that people twice my age in this industry and in this city, in this media market has not achieved, I am still treated like a little boy by certain people in this business. And not all of them, and not most of them are actually white. A lot of them are black. I'm just going to be honest. I get treated like a child in certain cases. I have, where people are sitting me down trying to talk to me like I don't know, like I don't have an Ivy degree, like I don't have a master's degree in communication management, like I don't understand how to read contracts and understand how to read rules. Like I don't know how to actually conduct myself in a professional manner, even though I've worked for some of the most elite white-owned media companies across the world. But in Black media, sometimes people will still try to treat you like a little boy. Like you don't know how to sit down, like you don't know how to manage a budget, like you have never hired people, like you've never fired people, like you've never been a chair of organizations that have had multi-million-dollar budgets, like you've never had to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars to keep Black organizations alive and thriving. You can do all of those things, but in Black media, and I'm not naming any specific places, but in general, they will treat you like a boy when you are a Black grown man that has paid taxes and have taken care of your adult self your entire life. The word is called paternalism. And so you can be as successful as you can be, but people will still treat you like a boy. And so many years ago, right, there was no conversation or consideration for me to actually have my own show, despite the fact that I have had a show on Philly Cam, that I've had been on radio shows my entire life and career, that I had a successful podcast that gets more streams and downloads and listens than some people's actual shows in existence. But there was a hesitancy and a fear that I couldn't have a show, that I wouldn't know what to do, that I couldn't, whatever. And so, if I ever had a memoir about my career, maybe there'll be a chapter called Forever Auditioning, that people will assume that when you get to a certain point in your career, no matter how much impact you've done, you're always auditioning. And in some ways, you get it, but then you also are like, what is this? What the fuck is this? Because it's not actually about talent. It's not actually about merit. A lot of times it's a combination of ageism, jealousy, paternalism, homophobia, anti-Blackness, classism. It's a lot of shit like that. Let's not act like, let's have the conversation, right? So there was a lot of factors that shaped in me not having my own show. Initially, I think there was always this mindset of there had to be parameters around me. Like I was going, but that's how it was. I was handled with these types of gloves. So I just want to lay that foundation. It took a lot for me to have to get on Philadelphia City Council Live. It was not a easy, common sense, you can do it. You're great. We believe in you. Duh. No. It was not like that. It was a lot of things that it took for me to get to hosting Philadelphia City Council Live. Like it was not an immediate, yes, you should do it. We love you. Do it. It was a lot of real long, tough conversations. A lot of wait and see. A lot of auditioning. Not complaining. It's not my radio station. I don't own relationships. It's not my choice, right? But I say this to tell people that when you hear people, Black journalists and young professionals and people say, I'm going to go independent. I can't wait. these are the obstacles that certain people, because if I, at my age, that have accomplished as much as I've accomplished, you as the public will say, what the fuck? Like, duh, this makes sense. But that's not what I'm dealing with. That's not what I've dealt with in the business. And oftentimes I don't talk about it because, I just move forward. But for this situation and for others, there have been people that will lie and misspeak on my journey. And if no one else is going to speak up and defend me, I am going to defend myself, my work, who I am, and what I'm doing. And that's why we're having this conversation right here. So it took a lot of work just to get to the position to be able to be trusted enough to do this show. So I get the job, I get the opportunity, I host the show. While I was hosting the show, it was a good time at the beginning because Daryl Clark was president. And when Daryl Clark was council president, he respected the way the show ran. The way the show would run would be is that, look, the show was from 10 to 1. Most of the show is city council passing resolutions and passing bills and getting bills passed. So when that is going on, I don't really talk on the show that much because they're doing their thing. So I'm doing like a play-by-play, but I don't really get to talk or much, because, you all are there to listen to what's going on in city council. But traditionally, as the host, I open up the show at 10 a.m. sharp. I get, when Daryl Clark was council president, he would start council around 10:30 a.m. So what that would do is that would give me 30 minutes that while city council members are coming in, I would get a couple of interviews in. I would get to do a run through about the legislation, the bills. I get to add commentary. I get to talk to callers. And I really get to really do my thing. And then what happens, towards the end of the show, if council ends early, I get to do follow-up interviews. I get to really talk to council members and analyze and talk to callers. Like it was a full-fledged show that had a purpose. That was when Daryl Clark was president. So then it comes the year 2024. Kenyatta Johnson becomes council president. And pretty much the shit show begins. The fuckery begins. And I'm going to be very transparent about this. I don't have the best relationship with Council President Kenyatta Johnson. That wasn't what it used to be. But in my opinion, and this is my opinion, I think that he holds a grudge against me because of the fact that I wasn't one of the members of the press that wrote fluff pieces or took a lot of the bait from his comms team when he was going through his trial and when he was indicted. And because of the fact that I was not somebody who came out and praised them, defended him, he holds that grudge because, full transparency, my husband, who was then boyfriend at the time, in which was an intern for him, was a special assistant to him back in the day. I was a communications fellow for city council. Me and him had a good rapport. He went to Penn and got his master's, and we had a good relationship. And then through time, my career blew up and things happened, and we got indicted and everything went down. I never wanted him to go to jail. I never wanted conviction. He's a father of two, young Black boys. I wanted him to navigate that. I wanted the best. I didn't want him to have to go through that. However, as a journalist, but also as a citizen, I had questions about the ethics, about what was going on. And in some ways, I said publicly, and I don't regret what I said, but the moves in which he did things in that regard, the stuff that were actual factual things, right, were unethical. Were they illegal? Were they criminal? Debatable. And clearly a jury did not think that. And I don't think what he did in many regards was criminal, illegal behavior. But I do think the way in which he moved in certain situations were conflict of interest that were very clear and I also thought were unethical. I think that that was the case. That's my opinion. And I also think that the facts of the things that he could agree to that we all saw that he did not disclose, there were some strong ethical violations. Again, never was on the side of saying he should go to jail, he's corrupt, convict him. I was never on that type of time. But I wasn't going to be some of these other journalists that sat up and brown nosed and played into the fluff pieces around his wife and others, where people were letting him or letting his wife come on air and just really not really ask her the tough questions or hold her accountable for some of the decisions that they made. It was kind of like they just wanted a soapbox to just kind of give their own narratives with no pushback. I'm a journalist. I give everybody that level of critique, not just black politicians, not just people I like, not just people I don't like, not just white politicians, but everybody with the seat of power. And so I think that once he, was found not guilty, when he was able to, beat the case, beat the feds, which is commendable, he came back with a flex. And so anybody who wasn't, you know, kissing his ass, riding his coattails, rocking with him, he, in many ways have tried to make situations for them difficult. I think it's fucked up because at the end of the day, I think that, he's a Christian man, so he says, but you got a second chance. You're the cat with the cream. Stop licking yourself. And you turn around and become council president right after that. Even more blessed. But it just goes to show that when a person is given grace in a certain way, they turn around and they become the exact same problem that a lot of people said. I can have my disagreements. I can have my thoughts. But yeah, I know. I've heard. It's fucked up. But this is politics, right? So let me start with him. His comms director is Vincent Thompson. Vincent Thompson, in a nutshell, is a hater. I'm just going to make it simple as that. He's a hater. And again, this is the episode where I'm going to name names and say some things because I'm going to talk. Because I'm tired of the back door, behind the scenes, snake ass shit. We're going to put it on the floor and we're going to leave it there. Okay? Because some of y'all thought that Ernest from 2016 can't come up and pull up in 2025. So we're gonna talk about it here, and we're gonna keep it moving. Vincent Thompson was the vice president of broadcast on the board of the Philadelphia Association of Black Journalists. He was not my vice president of broadcast. I was the vice president of print. He was the vice president of broadcast. We bumped heads a lot on various issues. I'm not gonna get into some of the details about some of this shit, but I'm going to just say we clashed on that board. What ends up happening is that he used to be the host of Philadelphia City Council Live. And he used to be the host of that show. And he leaves the show to work for Kenyatta as his comms director. This is before Kenyatta was the council president. He decided to take a job and work for Kenyatta's administration. Cool. Well, when he took that job, he could no longer be on our board as the vice president of broadcast. He couldn't be in that position because you're no longer a journalist. And he felt some type of way about it, because he wanted to still be on the board in some capacity. Well, you work for an elected official. You are a comms director for a member of city council. You're not in a journalistic position. You're not hosting anything. You're not doing, you're not in the role. You're not doing journalism, and you're not in broadcast, technically. You are now working for an elected official and a comms role. That's not journalism, and that's not VP of broadcast. So he felt some type of way about that. Fast forward, I become the host of the show. He was talking shit. He didn't want me to have the position. He wanted his good friend, Denise Clay Murray, we'll get there in a minute, to host the show. He initially thought he could still do it while being on city council. He wanted to advocate for it. But once I got the show, he did everything in his power to make my experience a fucking living hell. So both of them were antagonistic, but the microaggressions, the passive aggressiveness from both the council president and him started the moment they got there. It started the moment where this man wanted to decide to say that council is going to start on time, which, let's be very clear, the council president starts the time of council. There's no such thing as starting on time at 10 o'clock on the dot. You can start that meeting as the president whenever you choose to. So if you want to start at 10:15 or 10:30, you start it however you want to. He decides to say, we're going to start on time because Vincent is passive aggressive and Vincent is a hater, period. Okay. And I would say that to him directly to his face, but because his breath stinks because of how bad his teeth is, and I would think with the insurance he gets from the city, I would say it to his face. I would say it from his side because I don't want the spitting and the lisp and the spit and the saliva on my face and that bad halitosis. So maybe I'll put a facial mask on, but everything I'm saying right now, gloves are off because I don't mind saying this to this man because I've had to check this man several times about how the way that he's moved and how he's tried to be a snake behind my back. So we're going to keep it real on this episode. I'm grown. And little boy Ernest has never been and never will be. I'm no one's boy. I'm no one's bitch. And so I want to set the record straight on the record before we get on the record where Ernest Stone was on September 14th. And I promise y'all, it will not be like this on that show, but I'm going to get it out this week and we're going to put it on the flow and we're going to move forward. But before I move forward, I'm going to address my shit here because that's a Libra. That's what Libra do. We're going to get it out right here and we're going to move forward after this because I'm tired. I've been waiting. I held this too long, but I had to wait to get some things off my chest because I'm an unbossed, unbothered person. And I'm not about to sit up here and let people who cannot bench press like I do in this industry think that they can talk to me type of way and talk about me type of way, and I think I'm going to correct it. Especially other men in this industry. Especially other men in this industry that should know better. So he made my life a living hell on this show, doing this show, City Council Live. They started the show at 10 o'clock, which meant that I did not have the ability to open the show. Let's start there. Let me back up real quick. Let me scratch that record. Let me back up. Do you all know that this coward, as a host on that show, I am supposed to be given a press badge. I'm supposed to be given access to city council to be able to get access to the building to get inside. Do you know that this man played hot potato between him and Joe Grace? Joe Grace, who's the communications director for the mayor, Sherelle Parker, that they both, cowards, both of them playing hot potato, saying, there's no way that we can give you, we don't do that anymore. We don't give people press access and grant. What are you talking about? We don't give press access to journalists or whatever. I said, every white reporter, because we're going to talk about the racism, every reporter that is a city council reporter gets press access. Every Inquirer reporter that's at the Inquirer, every WHRY, KYW, all of those reporters that are city council reporters and bureaus, reporters get access to city council to be there to report. What that means is that you don't wait the line. You get access to get inside the building without having to be hogged up. Because if you get there and wait in line, you have to wait a long ass line. Okay, if you're a guest. But if you're a reporter, you're considered essential staff on that floor. You get access as press access to make sure that you get a chance to cover. They denied me access to get to the building. My producer at the time, Troy Wilmore, had access. He was granted. He had access to the building. He had a press pass and everything. I was not allowed. I was not granted by both the city council president's office and the Parker administration's office. So what that meant was I had to basically, either A, get someone that I knew from city council to let me in the fucking building, or I had to wait in line and have to sign the fuck in and that long ass line. So I had to come in extra early. And sometimes I was skating by the teeth to get in and arrive on the show on time. That was the barrier and the hell they got to me to even get in the fucking building. Then I get to the building, right? I get down to my seat. I am there, ready to open the show, and they start counsel, and I have to whisper in between an invocation to open the show. Mind you, Vincent Thompson hosted this show in the past and knows it, but basically didn't want to do it because he was jealous. He was jealous that a man who looks better than him, smells better than him, has better teeth than him, has achieved more in their journalistic career than he will ever do in his fucking life, was hosting a show that he wished he could still host. Oh yeah, I'm not muting and I'm not. Because if you're gonna play with me, you're gonna play with black journalists. How dare you? It be your own fucking people. Okay? Now all your skin folk are your kinfolk. And we gotta name that. We gotta name it. Because this is the shit that people like him and others get away with. And I'm gonna name it. Because I'm free. And this is what freedom sounds like. A person that can be able to name their culprits in real time. They create those barriers. I wanted to speak on it. But the intimidation of the reality of them holding that contract up in the air, them trying to intimidate my future there. Couldn't open the show. Council sessions would go on longer. And it was to the point where I would barely talk on shows. You all would say, were you there? I was there, y'all. I wasn't talking. I didn't get a chance to speak. And then when I did get a chance to talk, any little thing I would say, they nitpicked about it. They tried to complain about it, make it a big issue, nitpick on anything. Every little thing, anything I said on air, it was a problem. It was a controversy. All the backdoor callings, all of that, just trying to make a problem. And so this went on for over a year and a half. So by June of this year, when the budget was done and council went on summer break, I had made up my mind. My husband left city council because I think there's a pattern at city council, to be honest, and I'm going to keep it 100, of a lot of micro management, a lot of microaggressions, a lot of horizontal hostility, a lot of passive aggressiveness, a lot of that. And a lot of these city council members respectfully perpetuate a lot of the trauma and the bullying and the bullshit that they went through in a different era. It is 2025, y'all. Y'all are not about to sit up here and extract, extort, exploit, and abuse the labor of young black people working these jobs. For so many of them who claim they're for labor and for equity, they exploit and abuse. And I'm not going to say physically, but emotionally and mentally abuse their staffers. Oh, I can talk the fuck now. And what I will say is, not my husband, not that one. There's a line that was crossed several times when I was at city council. And certain people know who they were. But don't do that. Not that one. Not my family. Not that. And so we came to understanding in June. Bye, city council. Both of us. Bye. We can't do it like this. It was cute when it was cute. But we realized very quickly how certain people were trying to play certain games. And you don't play with anybody's employment. You don't play that. If you want to do that, you can try that. But not with this one and not with me. And so talks about a new show took place over the summer. I didn't want to leave WRD. WRD didn't want to leave me. And so, by the blessings of good people, the general manager, the president, the staff, the team, a show was born. And it works for me. It works for them. I'm getting paid. I'm doing the show that I should have, in my opinion, should have done a long time ago. But I proved myself. One could argue I shouldn't have done that, but listen, everybody knows I can do my job. This is what the fans want. This is what I want. And look, pressure makes diamonds. And a lot of times, sometimes you got to go through trials and tribulations to get what you deserve and to make it make sense, because it's not just a show for me. It's a show that Philadelphians need. It's what Black Philadelphians need. It's what our community needs right now. A public affairs program is something that our communities need. It's so much fluff out here on the airwaves. There's so much misinformation out here in our ecosystems. Black communities and Black and brown Philadelphians deserve credible news from Black-owned radio stations. And for too long, we've seen people manipulate our communities and our airwaves and not respect it. These platforms cannot be dictated by political power. We have to speak truth to power. We have to hold these politicians accountable. And we cannot do that if everybody's being compromised by the powers that be. So I am grateful. I am thankful that WRD has allowed me to host this show. This station has not had a public affairs program like this, of its kind, of this type of way, and I don't know how long. The spirit of Mary Mason and so many other people that have come through this station that have spoke truth to power in this type of way with this type of program, I am truly honored. And to the people that were spreading rumors and saying, oh, he's out at WRD, because they thought that because I wasn't doing that show, that they thought that trying to push me out of that show, that I was no longer going to be doing a show. You was sadly mistaken. And they had to eat that crow this week because they had lied to other people in city council, telling people at city council, including other people. The person that's going to host that show, I can't tell it who it is, but this person can do the show. They're good at it. It's not my place to reveal who the person is. I'm not going to do that. When that announcement comes, the announcement will come. But I want to be able to be clear to my followers that we're not going to act like Vincent Thompson. We're not going to hate. We're not going to throw shade. The person that is going to host this show, who I know who they are, they're credible. They can do it. I wish them well. They are a member of PABJ. There's somebody that is a very familiar face. This is a person that can definitely do this show. I'm not going to name them, but when you find out who it is, you'll be like, okay. And you all should embrace them. You should celebrate them. I know for a fact that they're not going to get the hell that I got doing this show. I know for a fact that Vincent will be very, very happy and excited that this person is doing the show, and they're going to be very gracious to them. And I'm happy that the station will not have the level of bitching and complaining and whining. And that this person will get a chance to be paid and get an opportunity to do something that they will like. So it's a win-win situation. It's a win for me because now I don't have to be constrained for 3 hours in a city council hall where people are being petty and whiny. I can actually produce a show where I can talk for an hour, and I can produce something that gives me purpose, meaning, and give me joy. And this person gets to do the show that they probably always wanted to do. And I think it's a win-win for everybody involved. So the story ends on a good note. I get the last laugh. Another great Black host gets an opportunity that they've always wanted. And I can tell my haters that karma looks like trying to take somebody off of a show that they only got to speak on an hour, 15 minutes, and turning around and your hateration transition to a 1 hour show where they get to make history and make a difference every week. Thank you for that. Now, I hope that Vincent Thompson can spend less time talking shit about me and worry about the way that his breath smells like a piece of shit. And hopefully, Council President Kenyatta Johnson can focus on his job and manage city council without trying to micromanage myself, and focus on hoping that there's not another Fed probe into his administration that he currently runs. I hope that that is something he can avoid, because according to sources that I have, I hear that there are feds looking into his administration and that of his friend up on that other floor from him. And I hope that he is keeping his nose clean and doing everything in order. I really do hope that. Because if that's not the case, what is that song by Taylor Swift? Karma is my boyfriend. Karma is a charm. Karma is... All I'm saying to people is, I don't wish ill will on anybody. But all I'm going to say is that Bible says you reap what you sow. And so you better make sure that you are doing right. Because I've heard from close sources, they looking at you. And I want you to be doing right. Not because you ain't doing right by Black journalists like me. That's a fact. But I hope you're doing right in that role. Because I'm going to always show up as a nice person and be real. Keep your business clean. Vincent, keep those teeth and those gums clean. And we going to move on. We going to move on. I got off my chest. I popped my shit. I gave y'all the read of century. Good luck September 11th at City Council when they open on Thursday. I will be watching and I will be reporting about it on September 14th. Tune in to the season premiere, the series premiere of On the Record with Ernest Owens on WRD Radio. It's going to be a good show, y'all. We're going to have some fun. Now back to Ernestly speaking. And before we get to these hot topics, I do have another big announcement to make. Not now, but it's coming very, very soon. And I'm going to be quiet on that. Not to hot topics. That was a long catch up, but we was due. So there's a lot going on with Trump. Speaking of bad administrations, Trump's new normal, right? The job numbers are not looking good. Job growth, unemployment. There are more people that are not having a job than the number of jobs that need to be fulfilled. I hear the job market only increased by about 20,000 jobs in August, but unemployment is increasing. Trump still wants to be in denial about the situation with the jobs, even though he let go of the person who created the report. The numbers are still not good. He's still in denial. He's also creating a new narrative that I've heard him test out in certain conversations with the press, that there's a lot of buildings and development happening, and that he's waiting for those developments in big business and construction, that all this investment in new hotels and buildings, that he's waiting for those things to get fully produced, and he's going to see how that progresses, so that when those buildings that are being built apparently and these hotels and stuff, that's when the jobs are going to open up. That's what he's claiming. I personally call cap on that, but that's his new narrative, okay? They're in the trash, right? But what he's doing right now is that he's trying to go after Chicago. He's obsessed with Chicago. He has his sights set on Chicago. He says he's not going to tell anybody when he's going in, but he's going in. Now, I've heard from some good political reporters and journalists and columnists like Chris Brennan, who's at USA Today, that the question is this really about crime, or is this just a grift? Like, is this another way that he's using these fear tactics to fundraise? Because in Trump fundraising literature that's been going out and disseminated on social media, not on social media, but in his newsletters, he has been using this rhetoric around, coming after Chicago and crime as a way to ask people to give money to him and donate to him. So it's been a fundraising tool to a certain degree. And he's been creating all types of weird little AI generated GIFs and memes and shit like that to try to really antagonize this. But, we'll see. with Chicago. We'll see. But Chicago's bucking up to him really aggressively. I mean, JB Pritzker has been taking some strong stances in press conferences, and we're just going to see. But it's not looking good. So the conversation becomes, why is he on this extreme tip about, about this? Because another big thing took place recently: the Epstein files, the Epstein hearings. The survivors are coming out publicly and beginning to talk about the Epstein clients list. They've been demanding action from Congress. There's been a bipartisan effort. Marjorie Taylor Greene, Nancy Mace, all these other Republican women and others are coming out, speaking out about the Epstein files and really beginning to be critical of Trump. Like, this just continues to build. There was a hearing where they've been hearing testimonies from survivors who are demanding for this type of change. And listen, they're not holding any punches. There was a report that came out by CNN that revealed that as recent as the early 2010s, when allegations of the Epstein and whatnot, that his people like were still being honored. Like, even when, the woman who was with him, Maxwell, they were talking about, the situation about she was still being honored and in the room. And that's very telling, because this is by the Clinton group. They were still out here. Ghislaine Maxwell, she was still being recognized and honored by the Clinton Initiative, Global Initiative. She was still being at the galas, even in the early 2010s, after all the accusations were out about Epstein at that point. She was still being in those spaces as early as that. So yes, the Clintons were still in the mix or had awareness of this. Listen, I don't give a fuck. Like, what I mean by that is people are acting like, well, what now? Well, if there were Democrats that were complicit with it, if they were a part of the schemes, they were involved, they should be held accountable too. Like, ain't no gotcha over here. I don't care if Democrats or Republicans are doing it. I think there's this weird notion that there's a stand culture within politics where political stands, right? Because we do have political stands, right? That they are so extreme with this type of stuff. Like, oh, if you stand for the Clintons or true blue Democrats, you got to defend them at all costs and ignore everything they do wrong. No. I'm not a political stand. I'm not into that type of culture. So if both are wrong, they both go, and that's something that I'm big on. There's no gotcha with me on that. So if that's the case, right, lock them all up if they're guilty. But that doesn't, again, dismiss the current situation for our current commander-in-chief. This issue, he has not been able to shake. It continues to manifest. It continues to build. And each week, the stories get more gruesome. The allegations get more alarming. And this is just a sore on the Trump's legacy. So I don't know. I just don't care enough. All this other stuff seems like it's a distraction. And I feel like he keeps doing this stuff. It's just not landing. Like, at a certain point, it's just not. DC, right? Even though, that Mayor Browser over there talked all this about is working, they're suing the Trump administration for deploying the National Guard. Like, that shit is arguably unconstitutional. We're in a space right now where there's just embarrassments left and right. Just huge, glaring embarrassments. And it's so clear that Trump is going down, and he knows it. He knows it. There's levels to which nothing's working for him. Nothing's working. I mean, there was talks about him potentially dying. That went away. You're looking at all this stuff that's going on, that he cannot shake off the Jeffrey Epstein relationship. But it's just not looking good. It's not looking good for him. And these acts of desperation is not helping because look what's going on with JFK. JFK out here cutting the fuck up, reducing these vaccinations, the shit that's going on in Florida. They're trying to cut back vaccinations for kids. Everybody should be freaking the fuck out right now. I'm not saying panic, but just what is RFK Jr. doing? Like, what is this man doing? First of all, he's a hypocrite. The man gets vaccinations for himself, but continues to spread misinformation about others. Listen, I'm black. I'm getting all of my vaccinations. I hear that in Pennsylvania, CVS is allowing for there to be access to the updated COVID, vaccinations and boosters. Thank God, because y'all know I'm a CVS girl. So that's my pharmacy. That's my place. Flu shots. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are we doing here? But he's getting a lot of pushback. There are people calling for him to step down and resign. He's going through it. So people are giving him that work. I will say that. Now, with the Democrats, this Mondani race, y'all, has gotten messier by the dozen. The girls are fighting once more. And let me get into the fighting. Okay, first of all, Andrew Cuomo with his messy ass. There was a poll that came out, or some statistician said that if everybody dropped out the race and it was just between Mondani and Cuomo, Cuomo would win. That's what's been said. And ever since that has come out in the press, there has been this weird tactic from Cuomo to basically try to knock as many people out this race as possible. There's been one candidate dropped out. The Republican has stayed in. Sewell, whatever his name is. But there was a narrative that Eric Adams was supposed to drop out, that apparently Trump was supposed to be trying to offer Eric Adams a job, and he was supposed to drop out and work for the Department of Home or some type of shit to offer him that to get out the race. Well, Eric Adams has ferociously come forward to announce that is cap. Now, do I trust Eric Adams? I don't. But I'm going to tell y'all something. We need to encourage the delusion that this man thinks he has a chance of winning. The fact that if Eric Adams continues to stay in the race, which he is, this means that Cuomo will definitely lose. We need Eric Adams to stay in this race. Y'all, I told y'all, Eric Adams needs to stay in this race. This might be his biggest political contribution to democracy as we know it. Because if he drops out this race, it really gets tight, okay? And we can't afford that to happen. And honestly, the Democrats out here, Hakeem Jeffries and others who have not endorsed Mondani, they're fucked up for it. They're cowards. And honestly, I think people should run against them. I think they should have challengers. I think that Hakeem Jeffries shouldn't automatically be granted the Speaker of the House seat. And quite frankly, I don't want him to. I've seen too much from him. He's an embarrassment. He's bought. He's compromised. I'm not a fan of him. So that's that on that. But I guess I do want to talk about the biggest news in the Democratic Party's current history. And that is the engagement of Cory Booker. Yes, Cory Booker announced this week, and what was a shock to all of us. I guess this is look, Taylor Swift getting engaged to Travis Kelce was not a big shock to me. Like, Travis Kelce, they've been together for a minute. They're rich. That wasn't too much of a shocker for me. But the reason I'm shocked about Cory Booker is because I'm just like, first of all, when did you have a girlfriend? First of all, when did you ever have a girlfriend? And not a girlfriend, a girlfriend. Like, not a GURL friend. Because I have girlfriends. Like, my girls, Sharon, Amanda, Lauren, my girls, Candace, how you doing? My girlfriends. He has a girlfriend, like a girlfriend, or he had a girlfriend. Now he has a fiance. I mean, first of all, where do I begin with this? Well, number one, I got a little joke. I guess maybe Cory Booker saw that, Malcolm Kenyatta had pulled that stunt where he walked all the way to Harrisburg. He walked all the way to Harrisburg, child, and said to himself, oh, I cannot be out stunt queened by the vice chair of the Democratic National Committee, the DNC. I need to out stunt queen him. And so in pure stunt queen fashion, Senator Cory Booker decides that he wants to put these photo shoots up of him with this woman of color. I think she's like black, maybe Latino. I don't really know her ethnicity. I know she's of color. And he takes this picture and he's in Hawaii on an island. He gives her this very, very thin, super thin, basic engagement. I mean, come on, honey. Like, you are a U.S. senator, not a state senator, not a congressperson, but you are at the time, a single black man. You have no children, no child support, no previous marriages, no previous divorces to pay settlements on. Your money is your money. And you mean to tell me that listen, if y'all saw my engagement, y'all saw my wedding, what are we doing here, Cory? Okay? If you're going to beard up, I'm sorry, before you slip. If you are going to engage up, you better have a ring on that finger. What is this? What is that? That looked like a little, I don't know what that was. I thought it was a silver rubber band. I didn't know what it was, but it was thin as hell. I was a little shocked by that ring size. The look of the ring, it just, because we like the ring watch over here, all right? But I look at that photo shoot, and I'm just kind of like, this is forced. It looks like a cutout brochure, like he's lifted her up. Like, everything about this just felt very disingenuous. And so for those people who do not understand what he was doing, this is a man who clearly wants to be the next president of the United States. It's obvious that he needs to do it. I will tell you that talking to Crow's strategists in his political era, and I've known this for many years. I've met Cory Booker in person several times. Fun fact, in 2016, my husband introduced him at a fundraising event for Hillary Clinton. And he was also Mr. Johnson's commencement speaker for his graduation at Penn. I graduated, John Legend was my graduating class's commencement speaker. My husband, when he graduated a couple years after me from Penn, his commencement speaker was Cory Booker. So when graduation was over, my husband was a speaker at his graduation at Annenberg, but the general commencement, we all got access. We got to see Cory when he left, and we took a picture with him at his graduation, my husband's graduation at Penn. So I've known Cory. Now, close political strategist, because I'm not here to spill tea. I ain't here to do anything. I ain't trying to do nothing mess. But what I was told from his strategists and from his team is that apparently Cory Booker does well with certain groups and demographics, but the biggest barrier to his trustworthiness and people really fully being engaged with him is his lack of an actual, spouse, like him being married. And he's always been a little private about his relationships. Rosario Dawson was the main girl he was with. Even it was interesting because she's a Bernie Sanders supporter. So I never understood the relationship between her. But anyway, listen, it is what it is. So, it just seemed very odd. And I think what a coincidence that he's getting engaged, because now the wedding's going to happen before the election. And it's 2025. So let's just say the wedding will probably happen. I mean, it could happen next year, to be honest. He has money. He has connections. He can have it next year. Or it could happen in early 27, where that buys him some time. But do y'all remember this with Tim Scott, the other black senator? How you doing? What is it with our black male U.S. senators? Like, with the exception of Warnock, of course, alpha male. But it just seems like these men are married. Tim Scott got engaged to, this woman, and then that didn't work out. But I mean, who? Just live your truth, guys. Just live your truth, however it is. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. It's not my place, I suppose. But I'm just like, Tim, babe. Now who? Okay. Well, after the presidential election was over, him and, his fiance did not work out. How convenient. So part of me wonders, like, is Cory Booker actually going to get married during the election? Like, is he going to get married during the election? Like, before the election? Because if he don't, and he continues to have the whole fiance narrative, I'm calling cap. Just like, when Tyler Perry had a fiance, had a girlfriend, had all these things, and then that kind of just disappeared. So it's a lot to navigate. It's a lot to navigate, but I just want people to be happy. I want people to be honest. I don't know for a fact what the situation is with him. I just find it all very convenient. I will just leave it there. I find it all very convenient. And, be best. Be best. Bless his heart. Bless his heart. So, immediate changes. Vogue has a new editor. Now, people will say Chloe Molly is a nepo baby. Her mother is a famous actress. And for those who watch Sex and the City, you can understand why this is a full circle moment. But, her mother is first of all, she is 49. Her mother is the legendary icon, Candice Bergen. And, Candice Bergen is a known actress. She's lived an interesting life. I think at one point in time she dated Donald Trump or something like that. I think it was. They went on a date or something like that. And she went on a blind date as a teenager with Donald Trump, teenage Donald Trump. She's had a very interesting life. She's lived a very interesting life. But she's an icon. And so her daughter is, 39 years old. She's about to, inherit the business. She's actually going to turn 40 in November. So she's lived an interesting life. She's been at the publication for many years, so it's not like she wasn't there. People are calling her a nepo baby. She's the head of editorial content of American Vogue. I will just say, and I just want to provide this context, because there's so much to unpack here. So the nepo baby thing is complicated with her. For starters, how do I parse this? Okay, let me just make it very super plain. She is a nepo baby, but she's not a nepo baby in this regard to this job. The nature of the fashion magazine industry is that most of the fashion magazine industry exploits a lot of journalistic labor and work and time. You can say what you want about Chloe, okay? But I will say respectfully that for any quote unquote nepo babies in that particular industry, they actually have to earn that shit and work for it. Now, there's inequity because unfortunately that industry is so fucking elitist and pretentious, but also it is an industry that do not really pay for journalism labor. Like a lot of the jobs in the journalism business, in the fashion journalism business. Let's talk about the fashion journalism business. We can talk about journalism overall as a problem, but the fashion journalism business, they don't really pay writers that much. They really do the whole, it's exposure. Did y'all see The Devil Wears Prada? Did y'all ever hear about Andy getting paid really much, any money? Did you hear any word about Andy Sachs getting paid any money? Like, she was spoiled, like she was able to eat great food, get free clothes, get magazines and shit like that. But she wasn't actually paid any real money to really sustain herself. And that industry is really for oftentimes rich white girls to thrive because their parents are going to pay the rent so they can pursue their dreams. And honestly, they don't even get into money until they really land a job. But even when they get a job, right, those jobs don't pay that much until they climb up the ladder. So truth of the matter is that it's really hard to call her a nepo baby because pretty much everybody in that respective industry is a nepo baby. Like you really can't get in the business without it. So it's almost like, what are you comparing her to? Because most of the people in that business it is based on connections and money. And so by default, there's like really no way. Versus Hollywood, the reason why I would call them nepo babies is because a lot of those individuals, for the most part, don't actually have any talent. And so pretty much they're just riding off the coattails of their famous parents to get opportunities. Chloe Molly, I would say this young lady, this woman in particular, she isn't necessarily just walking into this role. She had to endure a lot of shit. Like she was basically the Andy Sachs, Devil Wears Prada of that Vogue magazine. And so she put in that work. Even though there was some lines cut for her, she had to prove herself and really do it. And if she didn't have it, she wasn't going to get that job. So I will say that there is a little nuance there, but it also speaks again to the issue with the industry, because why is it that the only people that can work for you all has to have daddy's pocketbook and everybody else's money in order to thrive? That there's no space for a lot of other young, aspiring magazine directors. First of all, they have to go to New York, have to live in New York, most likely be in Manhattan. The cost to live like that, the inequity there is just a problem. So, I see it multiple ways. Another thing I want to talk about with media specifically is that we're seeing this really interesting dynamic happening. I want to give an update to that Democratic influencers story that came about those Democratic influencers. That there was that big story that came out that's by Taylor Lorenz, who wrote for Wired. And y'all know I know her. And I've been on Piers Morgan Uncensored with her once on a panel. I'm a fan of her work. I know that she's controversial, but I look at myself as being called controversial, all right. We are very bold reporters and journalists that are doing our thing, and I have mad respect for her work and the stories that she tells and the courage she has. I'm always going to give props to people that's doing the work out here. So with Taylor, her piece, it's been a week since that piece came out. And I wanted to see something, and she noticed it, because this is real, recognized real. A lot of people came out the woodwork. And, when that story came out, they was harassing on social media, slandering her name, just all kind of crazy shit about her, just talking shit about how the story was fake news and false and this, that, and the third, and all this shit. And I kept saying to myself, okay, well, if this is all true, there's going to be some major corrections in the story. There's going to be people that's going to speak up, and I'm going to reserve my thoughts and wait till it play out. Well, it's been a week, y'all, and not one single thing in that story got corrected or anything like that. And with that being said, all of you influencers that bucked and talked all this shit, all these conspiracy theories, all these passionate ass pleas, I told you all last week, I said, no one's actually addressing the elephant in the room. Everyone's talking about, their opinions, their emotions, their feelings. But the facts went over the fucking feelings with that reporting. That was a reported piece that was fact-checked, that was credible. She had her receipts. And I just was like, if y'all really, everybody was coming to me telling me this, that, and third. Okay, where are the facts? Correct the story. Get the story edited. Take things out. Threaten it with legal. If the story doesn't have certain issues, by now, journalistic standards, you would send a fact check. You would send a correction. There's been none of that sent. This story is where it currently is, the way you all initially read it. It is currently in that same proximity positioning. There's been speculation that some of them are like going to quote unquote lawyer up. Please. Bullshit. One thing you don't want to go against is a journalism attorney. Because journalism attorneys know that First Amendment left and right. And some of you all, I know you don't have a lawyer case in this, because some of you all were not even named, and the information to which she said things about you all was rooted in actual facts that you still to this day cannot be able to. And here's the thing. Why isn't these other companies coming out in y'all defense and representing what y'all doing? Why are they not being transparent about the contracts? Like, if you don't want to share your contracts with Chorus and all these other groups, that's your prerogative. But why are they not being forthcoming with the documents and information to debunk what they thought was not true? The reason why? because there was truth to it. I told y'all that. I said, y'all gotta follow and respect real actual journalists because too many people out here running with their emotions. And when it comes to this political shit, you gotta have your shit together. So, shout out to Taylor Lawrence. That story is dope. And here she is a week later. And I know what it feels like because when I wrote my big story on Rochelle Bilal a couple years ago, when I reported that several members and staffers at the sheriff's office at the time had reported to me, that they were, getting questioned by the feds pertaining to Rochelle Bilal, the sheriff. And she never wanted to speak to me directly about it, but didn't want to tell other people on the streets, fake news, it's not true, it's not this, it's not that. But I was like, if I told a lie and my story wasn't true, how do you step in to correct the story? You can always contact an editor and say, this part. What part? Exactly. My stories don't get, corrections. My stories don't be fluttered with misinformation. No. Because if you're reporting properly, you get the information right the first time. So that's that. Now, to local politics. Where do I want to start? I start with the low-hanging fruit before I get into the midst of everything. SEPTA is going through it. The tides are turning. I told you all this a couple of weeks ago that I felt like, I think even last week, I told you all that I felt like the tide was turning on everything that's going on over there. I feel like the tide was turning with SEPTA. Like people are beginning to call cap because they're not playing a role in trying to do any of this right. Mind you, we saw, Fan Duel or whatever Dow, they donate $80,000 so that sports fans can be able to access SEPTA to ride, to get back and forth, to ride on that line or whatever to access the game. Because this was getting real. But what's very telling about that is that big donors can give $80,000 to ensure that people can go see a goddamn game. But you all couldn't do that for kids to go to school. We could have put coins together to ensure that kids can go to school. But y'all focused on people going to a goddamn game. Like FanDuel did this. They restored the SEPTA Express train service for Eagles players that day. Yeah. Yeah. Not something that I'm a big fan of. Not something that I'm a big fan of. Like they spent $40,000 covering base operations and another $40,000 to cover the free ride. So they gave them free rides for Eagles fans. Like that's embarrassing. You know, it's also embarrassing, right? Because I'm going to keep it 100, that our governor, okay, Josh Shapiro, is doing podcast interviews talking about sports when we still don't even have money to ensure that our kids can access SEPTA and go. It's a lot of, I'm hearing of just conversations with SEPTA trying to concede. Judges are stepping in to demand that they put in full access, that they let go of some of these little hangups. Because some of these tactics by SEPTA is a little over the top to try to force pressure to get state funding. We hear you. We get it. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that you become derelict in your role and your responsibility as a public transportation operation system. Like, there's just a lot of weird behavior going on. Everybody's trying to put money into it, splash money into it, do whatever. But just seeing how they are moving and the lack of actual clarity and transparency and considering other people right now, it's just not a fan. Not a fan of that. And the governor, again, what are we doing? It's like everybody's worried about all these things except their job. Like, do the job that pays you. Yeah. Which then brings me somewhat to my next point. I told you all that this congressional race was going to heat up. And I end up having the chance to break the news because it's been a breaking news experience this entire time. But I was able to break the news that there is going to be a major new candidate jumping in this race, a race that we saw coming but did not see coming like this. And a big announcement is that State Representative Morgan Cephas has declared officially that she is running for Congress. Now, we had hinted at that, and there's been speculation for a while, but like I expected her to do, because of the fact that Dwight Evans has decided to stay in Congress. He's not going to retire early, which means that opens up the floodgates for anybody else to run in the seat. So what this means is that other people can be able to run, and it's going to pretty much be, there's going to be no special election. So remember when I interviewed Sharif Street, even though he didn't say how he felt, I think he really was hoping that it was going to be a special election. To be clear, he's prepared for battle. He is. He's prepared for battle. But I think he's frustrated about it. Because like he said on the show, he's frustrated because he knows a lot of money that could be used to defeat the Republicans is going into a primary that, quite frankly, is in a predominantly black district, and the seat's going to be Democrat no matter who gets it. But Morgan Cephas wants to run. And what I'm sensing here is that there seems to be spheres of influence that's placing and hedging their bets for this seat. I think West Philadelphia wants a shot because they're beefing with the Northwest. And so I think because Dwight had the seat, you got to remember Shaka Fatah had the seat. And so there's the Shaka Fatah coalition, his people. And so I think Sharif is from North. I don't think they were just going to just easily let him get that seat that way. And I think Dwight, because he didn't have his own successor from the Northwest, because he doesn't support Chris Rabb clearly, I think his mindset was like, fuck it. Let them fight for it. I don't care. It's selfish. And what's even worse, he's very old. And his health is not the best. And so personally, it's kind of sad to see someone in his condition still trying to serve when he has the ability to retire early and take us out of our misery. And I'm not talking about the misery of him. That's not what I'm saying. But the misery of what we're about to see in these next couple months. This is going to be a messy ass, nasty ass race. And to be quite honest, it's a waste of resources. It's a waste of time. And a lot of people are going to walk out of this situation more embarrassed and ashamed than they are happy and proud. I told you all I was going to hold my thoughts last week. I said last week I was going to hold my thoughts until now because I didn't want to tell you all how I really felt about it. But now I can. Quite frankly, this is a disappointment. I feel like Dwight should have just retired early. I feel that because Sharif Street decided to step out before before Dwight announced he was stepping down, I just feel like if there was a special election, he made it clear what he wanted to do, give him the shot. The fact that now other people sat on the sidelines to see whether or not he was going to or not tells me, do you really want this seat like that? Or are you just basically trying to... Because one thing about Chris Rabb, look, I'm not crazy about Chris Rabb for this seat, but at least he was going to stay in the race no matter what. But for some other people, I just don't know how serious a person can be. Because if the moment that Dwight announced he was retiring, why not run? Why not announce? You want to make yourself like you're bucking against the system. Why'd you have to wait for a special election not to happen? Why wait? To me, it speaks to the person's character. Because you're more interested, in my opinion, of playing the politics in a way that's still safeguard. I need somebody that's going to take risk and take a stand. And I think there's too many measured folks that's trying to present themselves a certain way. Now, to be clear, I don't hate Morgan. I don't dislike Morgan. I think Morgan overall is a well-meaning person. But I do have some reservations about the way that this campaign is running, the messaging of the campaign. The sincerity of the messaging is what got me. There's certain language has been used in ways that I feel like ideology-wise, I see what's going on here. But I also think, I don't know, a lot of stuff is being said, but I think it's just feeling very robotic. It's feeling very, we're reinventing ourselves in a way that isn't necessarily as authentic to who we are as actual politicians. I don't know. I'm just looking at some of this stuff and I'm just kind of like, where has this person been for the past 10 years? I don't know who that woman is. That's a different woman. I mean, the woman that I've known, the Morgan I've known in politics, I think is pretty decent. Whoever this candidate is running, I don't know who that is. I don't. And I think when you're running a certain type of way, you don't switch up in a way that it makes people that follow you confused. Like, since when did you use that kind of rhetoric for your stuff? A lot of stuff is just being like, And what I'm struggling with in this race that we're seeing shaping up is, are people supporting you? I mean, some people are supporting these candidates because they support them. But are they supporting you because they're supporting you? Or they're supporting you because they don't like the other person? And that's a slippery slope. Because you can't get votes solely on people not liking another person. You can't work from a scarcity mindset on it. You got to run with the perspective of people are voting for me because they want me to win. I mean, there's always going to be some people that's not going to vote for you because of a small sector of people they don't like. But you just got to be mindful about how you show up, because if this don't work out, you're back in Harrisburg and you have to answer to some folks about how some of the things you said and how you framed yourself. It's just a lot on the table with that. So just a little bit there. But the other thing that's been interesting to watch, um, as there's an increasing speculation that Dr. Ayla Stanford is going to run. And I revealed this last week on my podcast that people said rumors. Fine, you can call it rumors, whatever. But I don't call it rumors because I've spoken to close sources who have been in communication with her and people on this exploratory team that there's talks of trying to raise money for a PAC. There's outside national interests that want to see Dr. Ayla Stanford run. I'm going to be very transparent here. I don't see the pathway here. I don't want to say I don't see the logic because I think I can see the logic, but I just don't see the pathway. And I also think just knowing her personally, I don't know if she has, and most people don't, but the temperament to deal with the type of politicians that she's going to have to deal with for this job. The type of names, the surveillance of your finances and your things. Like, do you have all of that interest to deal with all of those policies? Because your information and your money and your business and your connections, all that becomes public. And so I'm not sure if Dr. Stanford really wants people all up in her business and her finances, and if she has a temperament to deal with a certain level of public criticism. Because I think for so many years, for the last 5 years at least, she's been praised publicly. She hasn't faced much criticism or scrutiny or anything. Everybody's pretty much, as a group, have praised her for the work that she's done around the vaccine. I mean, I got my first COVID-19 vaccinations at, the Black COVID-19 Consortium. I went there. My husband and I went. We both took this very seriously from the jump. And so to see where she was then and now, there's a part of me that's kind of like, you could be using your platform. Like, why does everybody want to be a politician? Like, why can't anyone be a beast in their own field? Why does everyone have to take one thing and go to the next? Like, a lot of you all do that with me. I love what I do. I love being a leader in journalism and transforming and helping change people's lives. What Dr. Ayla Stanford is doing, in my opinion, is more important than politics. You did all that work. You went into medical school, got a doctorate. You're an expert. You've been in the health field for so many years. Why would you want to take that and become a politician when you could have been the health commissioner at one point in time? But it's just, I don't know. I just think there's people put you up for something and gas you up and you just take it because it's available. And it's just like, why? So much resources and time. Like, I just feel like people should run races where they think they can actually win. I'm not saying that Morgan can't win. I'm just saying that it's just going to be a crowded race because with Dr. Ayla Stanford potentially getting in there, whatever competitive advantage that I think Morgan would have had, what she currently do is I hear people say, look, she's the only Black woman running for the congressional seat. But I've heard also people argue that, look, Summer Lee's in Congress in Pennsylvania. We have a Black woman in that seat. Both of our congressional seats is occupied by Black people. You mean to tell me that we're going to lose a Black man in Congress? So there's another angle of people feeling like they would like to actually see a continuation of gender equity and parity for Black congressional leadership in Pennsylvania. That's a real thing. Because if Summerlee's going to most likely get reelected. But if the next person comes in and they're not a Black, man for that seat, people might actually go, where's that representation? So there's a lot of things floating in the air. I just think that for me, I just know it's going to be messy because I already got mess. People come to me already said, Dr. Stanford, last time she voted or was registered to vote, allegedly, was in Montgomery County. that she doesn't actually live in Philadelphia proper, or to their knowledge, she lives in the suburbs. Now, when I knew her very closely, we haven't talked in about a year roughly. But when I talked to her and I seen her in the past, I always did not think she lived in Philly. I mean, I knew she was like Philly adjacent to some degree, but yeah, Montgomery County, Montco, that's what I heard. She lived in the suburbs. So I mean, listen, to be clear, you don't have to live in a district, in that respective district, in order to run for the seat. You don't have to. When it comes to congressional seats, you don't have to live in the district to run for them. However, in a crowded race where you already got people like Morgan and Chris Rabb and others, they're going to call it carpet bagging. If you're somebody on the outside trying to run for a seat that you don't live in the area at, it's going to be like carpet bagging. And I don't know how she's going to beat those charges or beat those allegations. Yes, you've done good work in that district, but not living in there as a resident when you could have easily moved, I just feel like that's just a little, I don't know. I'm not a fan of that. So, we'll see. But I also want y'all to stay woke on something. There was a mixer/fundraising event that's coming up that features David Hogg and Nikhil Saval. And this is taking place, not in Philadelphia, which is a red flag. So I think there's a lot of speculation, a lot of talk. But I tell people all the time, you gotta know when to hold and when to fold and when to observe. And I just think it's very interesting that now we're hearing all this chatter about David Hogg. So the leading young progressives in Montgomery County are having a live and in-person Q&A on this upcoming Wednesday. It's going to be David Hogg and Nikhil Saval. They're having an event. Just putting some things in perspective. I told you all that David Hogg was going to be making appearances around Pennsylvania and deep in Philly. Montgomery County is right nearby. It begs the question. Like I told you all. Are y'all picking up what I'm putting down here? Why is David Hogg coming to Philadelphia a lot? What, to troll Malcolm Kenyatta? I'm not against it. But what's the real reason? Something going on. Y'all stay back on that as well. So in this week's Ask Ernest, I want to take some time to talk about, there's been this trend. I'll call it that. I'll call it a trend. There's been this trend lately of people, I guess, in navigating their sense of like self-discovering. There's been a lot of folks that have been leaning into therapy talk around, or the over abuse of it. And this has been a trend for a while, but talking about certain circumstances in their life and also relationships with friends and dynamics. And they've been basically, there's this trend of overusing and abusing therapeutic talk. So what I mean by therapeutic talk is like, this person is emotionally dumping on me. This person is gaslighting me. All these types of terms and meanings, right? And in some cases, we talk about what it means to be in community or be a friend. And how in some ways the misuse of language or the ability to like, oh, I'm going to set boundaries and things. All of this stuff, right? Let me be very clear and transparent. All of these things are legitimate, real things, right? But how people use them as ways to actually not acknowledge how they're showing up and what they're dealing with and why we struggle with friendships and relationships. So let me put it this way. I noticed it was a situation where somebody that I know, I wouldn't call them a friend. I'll call them an associate. They're not in my inner friend circle whatsoever. But they wanted to talk to me about some advice. And this is why I'm even using this here for Ask Ernest, because I want to put this in perspective. They said, you know, I'm friends with somebody and I feel like, every time I talk to them, they're always emotionally dumping on me. And, I'm trying to have good vibes and I need to protect my peace. And I just feel like I don't want to be friends with them anymore because I just feel like they, this is what they do. So I said, okay, I'm listening to this. I hear this. So one of the questions I asked them was, I said, well, how do you define emotionally dumping? They said, oh, well, they're all, when a person just tells you all this negative stuff and, vent to you about things and just, complain to you about stuff. I said, okay, I don't know if that's emotionally dumping. Well, they tell me different things that they're going through. And I said, well, do you offer to hear it? They said, yeah, like I'm their friend, so I show up for them. And they always do this. I said, well, to be clear, if they're asking to talk to you and you're a friend with them and they're going through something and they, share it with you and they want to ask you, I wouldn't consider that emotional dumping. And when are there times where you actually don't feel like it's emotional dumping? And pretty much they was, in long story short, they were basically, I think what was confusing, what got me clear is that anytime this person wanted to share anything that made them uncomfortable, they consider that emotional dumping because they wanted to be quote unquote positive all the time. And I said, and this is probably why, and I went there with them, you don't have any friends. Is because if, we're in friendships with people or we're in community with people, whatever the case is, there's always, like, part of having friendships and relationships with people is that there's no level of perfection, right? You with friends are gonna get on your nerves sometimes. Sometimes friends will overshare sometimes. Sometimes, friends will be tardy for the party. Sometimes shit like that happens. It shouldn't be perpetual, but what I'm saying is that people argue that that is the cost to being in community, or that's the cost of having a friendship, is that sometimes your friends let you down. Sometimes your friends might get on your nerves. Sometimes your friends overshare, whatever the case might be. But that is the price of having a fucking friend. And what I'm recognizing with some people is that they get in friendships with people, and the moment that person doesn't do everything the way they had planned or intended, then they automatically is ready to call themselves quote unquote setting boundaries. No, you just want a personal pen pal. You just want someone to kiss your ass. You just want superficial relationships. Like, friendships by default will come with annoyances, setbacks, misunderstandings. And a lot of times, if they're rooted in good intentions and things, you can find yourself working it back in. But this new culture I notice of people that petty complaints. Like, I don't get it. So you have friendships with people where they don't feel comfortable. You don't want them telling you they had a bad day. You don't want them sharing other things that might pet peeve them. Oh, you can't be my friend then. It's not to say that I'm going to spend all day being negative Nancy, but if you can't have a friendship where a person can feel comfortable with opening up and sharing some things, or you ask them how they're feeling and they're being real with you, how do you expect these relationships to materialize and to grow and to build? I just think some people see friendships in a way, and I think people need to stop using the word friendship that much. Because a lot of these people that use the word, this is my friend, I don't see how you are a friend or show up as a friend for these people. And it's not to say, it's not rooted in like money either. Like, I don't think it's I need them to spend money every week. Now, I don't say that either. But what I'm getting at is that there was some new reports that came out about how apparently friendships are expensive, and Gen Zers are talking about how friendships are expensive emotionally and financially, and that they're not reconsidering the nature of them because it's costing more to maintain friendships and how much people spend on it. I just want to really bring this back to a point I keep asking. You cannot in one breath say, I'm lonely, I'm bored, I need to make friends. But then complain about, oh, a friend shared me something and it was something that was not perfect and it wasn't something I didn't like, completely agree with. So now I don't want to be friends because now I'm uncomfortable about something that may not even be a non-negotiable. But like imagine situations where you just want people to just to be around and just kiss your ass or just party with. You don't want all the other things that come with it. But then you're the same person that if your friends fall off or people stop talking to you or distance themselves from you and you're wondering why you're struggling to get friends and make meaningful connections, it's because you're not willing to actually invest in the dynamics and the nuances of friendships and the evolutions through time and whatnot. And if you're not willing to accept the person in their fullness, whether it's their stickiness, their messiness, and see a bigger picture for them as a friend, as they show for you, then you're not actually invested in friendships. You're not trying to be in community with people. And please don't complain when you find yourself asked out and lonely or bored at a certain point in time. Get in the field or get off. So, this week in movies, I didn't watch too many like mainstream movies that came out. I pretty much, for the most part, kept things rolling, kept things in a certain type of groove. Um, and it's been quite a time. Um, in so many different ways. I've been very much so following these what I call Oscar baity films. And there's two ones that I want to bring on your Oscar alert radar. So the first one is Kiss of a Spider Woman. I've been talking about this J-Lo film, and I really do think that if J-Lo ever was trying to get a Oscar nomination, which let's be very clear, she was robbed for Hustlers. She should have got an Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actress for her performance in Hustlers. But okay, the Academy hated on her. But this movie, Kiss of a Spider Woman, which is based on this Tony Award winning Broadway musical set in the 80s, it is great. I think she can get a Best Supporting Actress nomination. I think she can potentially win. She sings. The first song of the movie they came out, and she nails it. Is it the best vocals in the world? No. Is it Ashanti? No. It is her. And she sounds good. She's having fun. And I really do think this is going to be a really buzzy film for her. I definitely think she has a chance of getting an Oscar, especially an Oscar nomination, but even an Oscar potentially. The other film that I want to talk about, and this is something that is interesting because I didn't even think I was going to talk about this woman, but Sydney Sweeney, has found that movie. It's called Christy. It is his boxing film that is a biopic on the boxer Christy Martin, who's a lesbian. And basically, she's playing this, body transformational performance. And this is Sydney Sweeney. This is the one who just had the flop movie that just came out, the American Eagles ad controversy. She is what many people consider a conventional, attractive white woman. But in this recent saga, she's playing a boxer that's not attractive, that's a little pudgy. She uglifies herself and transforms. And Rolling Stone, did a review and they said, quote, "It was just a matter of time before Sydney Sweeney did what's become a rite of passage for actors, notably ones whose beauty tends to halt conversations and stop traffic, and who are desperate to be taken seriously, the transformation role. When it fails, cynics dismiss the whole endeavor as slumming. When it succeeds, it's serious acting." And so the review says that Sydney Sweeney throws a mean punch, and it says that she's entering the award season. So people are complicated, right? Some people think she might have a really good chance of getting an Oscar nomination. Some people are saying that the recent controversy is going to be a setback for her. Where I stand on is, I don't know. I don't know how it's going to play out for her. I do think that she's doing a lot right now, and there's a lot going different places. I think when she got the Emmy nomination for Euphoria, she built a lot of goodwill off of that performance, and she should have focused on the acting. But then this American Eagle genes, the mega speculations, it's really hard to know how voters and people are going to land, especially during this time period. Like, folks ain't playing. Like, the way that Trump is showing up in this way, people are not playing about this. And so I'm kind of not sure if she's going to get it. If she was a man, I would arguably say there's going to be a lot of grace for her if she was a Trumper or played around in that, because it's white men. But she's a white woman that's young. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I think for starters, she's 27 years old. She's actually turning 28 this week. So she's been having a very robust month. I mean, there's speculation, right, that American Eagle sales had fallen slightly after the Sydney Sweeney ad. So, I haven't even purchased from American Eagle since that Sydney Sweeney ad. I'm not boycotting them or anything, but it's just like, I'm taking my time. What's the rush? Maybe I'm a dog. I'm a mutt. Whatever the song goes, listen. That was a hit, okay? That Leon Thomas song, a classic. Leon Thomas III, that's a classic. But he said it best. So, you take your time, what's the rush? Because some of us are dog or mutt. But I took my time out rushing to buy from American Eagle right now. I got a nice little summer collection, I'm rocking it out. But I do think that this film, what I will say about it is very interesting. Again, I feel like if the American Eagle controversy didn't happen, I think it'd be so easy to say she's in the conversation. But we got to see this play out. We got to see more. But she's been, it made its premiere at the Toronto International Film Festival, which is TIFF. So we'll see how it plays out. But this is, the Oscar season watch for sure. So the MTV Video Music Awards, or as we call it, the VMAs, was quite interesting on Sunday night. I watched the show in its entirety, and it wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad. I think there were certain things that stood out to me. I guess I'll start with, do I want to go with the good or the bad? I'll go with the bad first, right? So it had artists, the star power was if that makes sense. Like, LL Cool J hosted the show. I mean, I feel like there's like the typical award show host at this point. Like, it's either going to be Sierra, LL Cool J, who else hosts all the time? Jennifer Hudson might host the show, Taraji, Kevin Hart. Like, there's always like a list of like the same people that rotate hosting these award shows nowadays. And so I feel like LL Cool J hosting did not feel that bad. He looks good. I mean, he always looked good to me. Like, that's a man who has aged very well. So he definitely looked good. But he hosted the show. It was very apolitical. Like, no one really spoke to the moment we were in. And he kind of set that tone in a very, I felt like, tone deaf way. Like, he was very like, at the beginning of the show, like, oh, this is the time, no politics, no this. And so everything just felt very like sterile. And since it felt it felt a little escapist. Like, you was watching this show and you would not have thought that the rest of the country was in shambles politically, or just the climate right now. Like, no one's speeches spoke to anything that was happening in the world. Like, everything was super apolitical. And I mean, I don't know if that's because of like CBS. It was on prime time. It was on network TV this time. So for the first time ever, the MTV Video Music Awards was not on MTV. It was on CBS, which this is all connected to Paramount because Viacom owns MTV, CBS, all that. So they're on the same family. And the rerun of the show ran on MTV. So I feel like that played a role in how it got really like politically washed. Sabrina Carpenter performed, Doja Cat performed, Mariah Carey performed. Her performance wasn't, I got to keep it 100. I love Mariah Carey. She's very talented. She's an icon. She won the Video Vanguard Award, which she deserved. But she just, I don't know. Her performances on award shows, I would say in the past like 10 years, just feel very flat. And I've never seen her in concert, but like, I mean, I'm not even gonna get into lip syncing and all that, but because I know she can sing, so there's no point, right? But just she's just so bland on stage. Like it's so cringy. She looks good, but it's almost like she's afraid to move her legs or something. Like, she's like always standing on position. It's very curtsy, and it's so like annoying a little bit to watch. It's like, girl, can you give me a little bit more? Can you? You're just there, and you're just like your dancers are doing all of the movement. I'm not saying you got to dance, but it's just like it's like so stiff. And if anybody watches her lately on her most recent performances, she barely moves a leg. Like she'll move her hand and she's so trying to be in posture and position. It's just so cringy. But you know, she's a diva. She's an icon. So people let her get away with these stiff ass performances. But like, it's just like I don't get excited. When they say she's gonna perform, I got up and went to the fridge. You know, I was like, it's like, what's going on here? But she's got a new album coming out, and you know, the lambs are gonna lamb away with the sales, right? But there was like not that much star power. I mean, Sabrina Carpenter performed. She's a good performer. She's always has a good set. I'll give her that. Um, Busta Rhymes performed. He won some award, like the Rock the Bells or whatever award that is, some made up award, but he was good. He's a good performer. He's fun. He's a hype man. Glorilla came out. She was fun. Um, Doja Cat performed. I don't know what she was doing. There was a lot going on. Tate McRae. So I've seen of her. I don't know any of her songs. I don't listen to her. Everyone keeps comparing her to Britney Spears. I can see it, right? The choreography, the dancing. She's very full of energy. And so she performed some song and she was a good performer. The dancing was on point. She's giving good choreography. But I know what the problem is. She does not have a hit. Like I don't hear the songs. The song she was performing, I just didn't care. I was like, you're doing all this choreo, you're doing all this dancing, but this song that you're performing does not really demand it. Like she looks good. Okay. She's dancing better than all the girls right now in pop. Like all the current girls in pop. She's giving it. But the song don't match it. Like Sabrina Carpenter has personality. She has flair. What she lacks in like choreography, she has in personality and flair. And I can give her that. And so and she has a nice hit that she has nice bops. But Tate McRae's music, it doesn't sound bad. It just sounds very like, you know, if it was on a playlist, it sounds like music you would go to a store. Like, I don't know, where do people go? You know, if you was going to Abercrombie and Fitch, I mean, does Zara still exist? Like, you will go there and get clothes, and it will sound good at a store or a mall. Do we even still go to malls anymore? I'm like, if I went to go get my nails done somewhere, and it was like a real like a real upscale spot, like a spa spot, that's the kind of music that will come on with it. So, yeah. There was some new artists that performed. There's this artist named Somber, who was born in 2005. So y'all know I'm getting up there because I'm like, ooh. Is that Gen Alpha? My goodness. But Somber, it's Sombr. He got talent. I enjoy him. I was feeling that. I think that's what Benny Boone is trying to be. But Benny Boone just do too much. But this guy, I was like, okay, I see what's going on here. I enjoy what I saw performance-wise from him. The singing, you know, he knows his lane. He's like adult alternative music. I was really feeling it. Um, who else? Yeah, yeah. So those are my so the good things, I guess. So those were some of the good things. Um, I mean, Gaga, you know, won some awards. She won Artist of the Year, which I was happy about because Taylor Swift, that was the only major award Taylor Swift was nominated for. And Taylor Swift is currently tied with Beyonce for the most VMAs. They both got 30 apiece. And so they're both tied for most VMAs won by an artist. And I think Taylor Swift would have broke the record if she would have won Artist of the Year, and she did not get it. I think so. Now I get to the good things. I am happy that this is a very sanitized VMAs from Taylor Swift. Because for the last 3 consecutive years, Taylor Swift has won Video of the Year. She won for All Too Well in 2003, 2000, no, 2002, All Too Well. 2003, she won for um, Anti-Hero. And in 2004, last year, she won for Fortnite. And she like dominated all the damn categories. It was like every category, she won every category. So it was just like the Taylor Swift show. And mind you, those 3 times, she did not perform at all, but just won every show and kept pretending she was surprised and shocked. And I was just happy that the VMAs did not get super Taylor Swift obsessed. She was not at the show. There was no mention of her. She got an album coming out October 3rd. You know, she's going to take over next year probably. She drops music videos. She'll come back next year and she'll do her whole little campaign. But it was just nice to have a Taylor Swift-free VMAs. And so it was nice to see other people win. Gaga won Artist of the Year. There was some other new artists that won some awards that was kind of creative. There wasn't really any black artists that won on stage outside of Bruno. I mean, Ricky Martin, who's not black, Latino, but won an award, like a special Latin icon award they made up. He performed. We love Ricky Martin. We love that he's living a vida loca and living his truth. He's doing his thing. Mariah Carey won her first VMA. She never won a VMA award. So for her to win her first award and only award to be the Video Vanguard Award was pretty dope. Sabrina Carpenter won an award and performed. Pretty cool. You know, she won Album of the Year for Short and Sweet, not the new album, which just recently, Man's Best Friend, charted top the charts at #1 on the Billboard Hot 200. So definitely going to be in conversation for Album of the Year because, I mean, she's like got the only strong pop record next to The Weeknd, who got Tomorrow or something, whatever that new album he's got. That album kind of flew by. You know, that new Weeknd album. I just noticed that album, like no one really talked about it. It was like Hurry Up Tomorrow. It kind of came and went. I think it's because everybody like trashed the video movie that he tried to do with it. So it was a lot going on there. Yeah, I mean, Video of the Year. Okay, so good things. Ariana Grande won a couple awards, Best Pop. She presented the Video Vanguard Award to Mariah, which I thought was a cute, cool thing. I knew if she was there, her album dropped last year, so she's about to go on tour next year. She's on her run to begin to push Wicked. There was a Wicked commercial. I study that kind of stuff. My inner comms brain studies marketing and all the things that I was like, why is she here? There's a reason. And so I'm so versed to this that none of this stuff like flew over my head. Like all the camera was on her. She was like the it girl for the award show because she was like the biggest, like, you know, current name that was there next to Sabrina Carpenter. Sierra was there. You know, Sierra, you know, she just likes to be in the room. But yeah, there was, you know, she was like the big star. She won her first ever Video of the Year award, which is kind of cool because Ariana Grande has done some really great work. And I feel like people sleep on her, but she doesn't win. She gets nominated for a lot of things. But I realized watching her at the VMAs that this is probably one of the few times I've seen her like accept an award. Like she rarely wins awards. She's always nominated, but she rarely wins. And I was like wondering, well, who was taking the awards when she was nominated? Oh, that's right. Billie Eilish, Olivia Rodrigo, Taylor Swift, like all of these other girls have gotten the awards over her. So she's always nominated in these categories, but she always gets passed over by other women in pop. And so I think about all the girls in pop that's won over the years in categories that she could have won in. You know, you got Gaga, you got Katy Perry, you got, you know, Beyonce in certain places, Miley Cyrus. She's always kind of been skipped over in many ways. So it was nice to see her get her roses. And this was like a slow year in music where it just made sense for her to get it. If there was ever going to be a time for her to get it, this was the year. So I'm happy that there was room for Ariana Grande to get her roses because she's been in the game for over 10 years at this point. And she just never wins these awards. So it was just nice to see her win Video of the Year. And it was for Better Days. And it was a cute beauty video. It was sentimental. Her grandmother passed away and just all of the symbolism in that video. So it was well deserved. I mean, she's still out here making actual music videos and giving a damn about it. Because a lot of music videos out now, it's like hit or miss. It's either really, really good or it's like really like mediocre. So I was happy to see her get her roses and her flowers and just, just be celebrating that way. So that was really good. It was good. It was a decent show. It wasn't the best thing in the world. The days of the VMAs having those major moments that we all grew up watching when we were younger. I'm not going to say those days are gone. I just think that we're just not going to see them, especially in the current climate we're in. But it was okay award show. I don't have any complaints. I had complaints, but it was all right. A lot of these award shows have been really like whack. It was all right. It was cool, you know. Um, well, TV. Next week, because award season is upon us now, y'all. Next week is the Primetime Emmy Awards. I'm looking forward to watching it. Beyonce is getting closer and closer to EGOT. She has a Grammy. She just won an Emmy for the Beyonce Bowl. She doesn't have an Oscar. She doesn't have a Tony, but she now has an Emmy Award finally. We'll see about that Oscar. What movie does she need to write a song for? I mean, she got nominated for King Richard, all right, but Billie Eilish, baby. Billie Eilish got two of them goddamn Oscars. Can Beyonce get one? Can we get her original song? What movie does she need to write a song for? Like Billie Eilish, get out of the category. Let my girl win something. I loved the song Spirit from The Lion King. But she didn't get nominated for that. I felt like she got snubbed. She should got nominated for that. I really liked Spirit. I thought that was a really good song. The movie, whatever, but that song was pretty much fire. But Be Alive was good. It was a good song. But Billie Eilish, what was I made for? I mean, just the Barbie movie. You know what I'm saying? You can't deny it. But yeah, I felt like you know it was a moment. Um, um, for just a lot of things. The Emmys is going to be really good this year. I like the Emmys this year because it was a moment I think that could have been a moment. Um, so let me back up. Be Alive lost to No Time to Die from the James Bond film, not from What Was I Made From. Later on, Billie Eilish, that's when Billie Eilish won her first Oscar. She won again later on for Barbie, so I just wanted to correct that record. But back to some other things. So the Emmys, I I I I like this year because there's a lot of new categories, a lot of dramas. We don't have Succession anymore. There's a lot of room for some interesting wins. I think we're going to see The Studio, this new Apple TV show, The Studio, that everybody's been talking about. I think The Studio is going to win a lot of big awards. I think that that new drama that everybody's been hyping up. See, I think it's going to either be Severance or The Pit. It's going to be a really competitive. I think The Studio is going to dominate for comedy, but drama is going to be interesting. I feel like the Pit and Severance are going to be clashing for awards in drama. I don't know where it's going to land. Comedy, I could either see Hacks or The Studio. I think The Studio might win though for comedy, but The Pit and Severance, I don't know where it's going to go. My heart says Severance, but it can get weird because I know that TV, the voters are really weird because the Pit is a medical. They love that ER energy. It's very dramatic. We love a hospital drama. I can see it being kind of like the This Is Us, like dramatic turn where people might fall for that and go that direction. But Severance got that Succession drama, HBO Max feel, and so you just don't know where to go with it. I'm placing my bets and I'm saying Severance, but I don't know. I really would like Janelle James to win Best Supporting Actress in a Comedy for Abbott Elementary this year. I feel like this season, she has put a lot of energy. This was her season. This was a season, her storyline, her story arc. Like, give her the fucking Emmy. I really want her to win. I've been wanting her to win forever. I wanted her to win over Cheryl Lee Ralph the first year. And I'm not going to hold you. I like Cheryl Lee Ralph. I've met her in person. She's a great actress. I get why she won. But that, to me, the heart of comedy for that show is Janelle James. Like even Quinta Brunson won Best Actress in a Comedy, which was well deserved. But like how that show, okay, like Principal Ava Coleman is an iconic character. And so I just feel like she should just really, I would like her to win. But I have a sense that like Hannah Enderbender for Hacks has been she's been worthy. And so I can see her winning. But I really, and they keep giving to an actress and, you know, The Bear. And I'm just like, come on, y'all. The Bear, let's move on. Let's move on. Like, let's seriously move on. It's time. Like, The Bear had a moment. Like, let's go. Let's move on, you know? So I'm just really hoping that I see that. But yeah, that's my forecast for the Emmys. I'm gonna watch it and I'll give you my review and my thoughts about it next week. But like it's next Sunday, prime time, okay? We all watching it as a family, you know. Check it out. Let's make our predictions. I also think the Penguin, that show, it's a like a mini series type of thing. I think there's gonna be some wins there. I'm telling y'all, I'm focusing on Severance on Apple TV. So Apple TV is Severance, it's not HBO Max. HBO Max is The Pit, interesting enough. But it's gonna be interesting to see who wins. I can see the studio winning comedy, but we'll see what's going on there. Other news, other moments that I want to mention. Uh, this show, y'all told me about it. Y'all know I don't really watch that many shows. I watch the shows I like. I love Love and Hip Hop. Love and Hip Hop this season is fire. That's all I'm gonna say. Every episode has me on the edge of my seat. I'm getting my life this season with Love and Hip Hop Atlanta. This is the best season in years. And I keep saying this, but literally every episode has been full of good drama. Storylines is making me remember why I love Love and Hip Hop compared to what I watch on Baddies. Like all this stuff on Zeus. Like Zeus has all the violence, all the drama. I'm sorry, not drama. They have violence. There's a lot of fighting, a lot of nudity. But they don't really have a strong storyline. Like I'm not invested in them the way that I'm invested in Love and Hip Hop franchise because all the other shows, The Real Housewives, all these they fail. They get flat. They're corny. Like I'm not watching the new season of Potomac. I don't care about it. I don't care. But this Love and Hip Hop Atlanta, I just have followed this loyally, and they just keep bringing the drama. But you all told me to watch this documentary, and because it's not a mini series, I had time to watch it. And this is Unknown Number: The High School Catfish documentary that's on Netflix. What the fuck? First of all, I followed this story when the tea came out about it not too long ago. I guess I can tell a little bit of it. Basically, long story short, these white folks in this little small town, this high school, this girl has been getting picked on. She has a boyfriend. Her and his boyfriend are dating. They're a cute little couple. He plays on basketball. They got little young love. Basically, they get in cyberbullied. This girl is getting completely cyberbullied. Her boyfriend gets cyberbullied. The family, first of all, this is a white story. Everybody in this story is white. Everybody is folksy. Like this is a Caucasian tale, okay? The girl is getting harassed and cyberbullied, and the FBI is getting involved. That's how you know this is white, because this is black folks. They would say, y'all got to figure this shit out. This white girl is getting bullied. Everybody's investigating what's going on. It's this big old scandal. There's hacking. There's an unknown number. They're tracing it. And long story short, I won't tell who did it, but the person who did it is somebody I would not expect. It is white as fuck. It's crazy as fuck. And it's somebody closer than you would have ever imagined doing the shit. And it's the most ridiculous, twisted, wilded ass documentary I have seen on Netflix in a long ass time. Now, I done seen some shit on Netflix, okay? Let's not forget the iconic Tiger King. It don't get better than that, honey. Tiger King was iconic during the pandemic. Y'all remember Tiger King during the pandemic? Y'all remember that whole, everything about that Tiger King documentary. Iconic, baby. You're talking about, it was a queer love story, arrests, violence, threats, the FBI, drugs, everything was going on in that documentary. Missing teeth, that was a good ass documentary, okay? I recommend people go back and watch that. It don't get any better than that, okay? It was a lot going on with Tiger King. And Joe Exotic, baby, listen, everybody in that show iconic, okay? Y'all not gonna tell me about the personalities involved in that, because let me tell you something about Miss Carol, baby. Miss Carol Baskin, okay? Carol Baskin was that girl. That was a documentary. Okay. That is probably one of the top 5 documentaries. And fun fact, one of the guys who's like a producer and worked on it went to school with me. I went to college with one of the guys at Penn who actually worked on that series. So, it's always a Penn connection. But baby, that is probably one of my top 5. Tiger King, Murder, Mayhem, and Madness. Okay? That was a pandemic classic. That was a classic. I don't think anything tops that. But this documentary, honey, this one right here, 90 minutes, probably one of the most messiest short form documentaries I've seen in years. It is called Unknown Number, The High School Catfish, and it's on Netflix. It is iconic. I highly recommend it. It was wild. So Mr. Johnson was in the house. I was watching it. And he was like, what are you watching? Because the text messages, he was at the part where the text messages were really explicit to the kids. And he was like, who talking to these kids like this? I said, I don't know, but I got myself on the edge of the seat. When the camera showed who did it, I said, what? I don't want to tell it, but if you haven't seen this yet, it is ratchet. It is ratchet. All I'm gonna say is that is a white people thing. White people, the way y'all show out and y'all cut up, and this is white people level drama. Like black folks got their ratchetness, but this is the type of shit that like this is not black people. But this would not go down like this. It's just not. It is so bizarre, and I'm just like, why? But for those who watched it, just let me know if you watched it. DM me and just tell me your thoughts about it. Because I was on the edge of my seat. I was not ready for this. And so I highly recommend it. And so, yes. But, it was a lot going on. So, yeah. But overall, this week, big announcements are coming. Not this week, but soon. But things are getting, things are heating up. This has been a very interesting time. And, every day, this September, fall is here, baby. Fall is here. And I know some of y'all gonna be like, after the 20, listen, I know the start of Libra season starts fall, but in this world, on my hood calendar, and clearly everybody's back with the shits, fall is here. And, stay tuned for all the drama. And as always, be well and be best. Ernestly Speaking is recorded in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and can be found on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. To stay up to date with the latest on the show, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Mr. Ernest Owens. Use the hashtag Ernestly Speaking to tell me what you thought about this episode, and check out my website at ernestowens.com.